Welcome to the 7997 podcast. We are your hosts, Chris and my lovely wife, Jackie.
Hello.
And as always, we are here trying to get closer to each other and closer to you.
Without killing each other.
Again, that's not part of the deal.
What?
We might have to take each other out at one point. You never know.
I'm weak.
Anyway. You never know what the Lord might ask you to do.
What? Oh, that's not right.
Ask Abraham about Isaac. Thank you.
I don't know what just happened, guys.
As we let the loud truck pass by in the
I was just thinking maybe a little black eye or two.
Dang, fighting that much?
But you supposed sacrificing.
I'm just
I ain't
saying.
messing with you. Hurry up because Mexico's about to Mexico.
Well, we're coming to you live from the terraza on the first floor.
Right.
So you go and get some of this Mexico in the background. Enjoy it.
You're welcome.
It is a hot summer.
Oh, man.
I mean, is it even summer? I think it's still spring, but this is the hottest time of the year here in San Miguel.
Yeah.
And it's been, I think we got to 99 degrees today.
Yes.
So we are out of the hothouse into some fresh air. We got the incense burning.
Hey.
There's some chimes off in the distance.
Yeah.
I guess someone else has wind chimes other than us.
Uh-huh.
That's we have
funny.
two on our terraza.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get to what we're talking about this week, which is
San Miguel
the
de
Mexico
Allende.
relocation.
God.
You done singing? You're good?
Oh.
Okay.
I was excited.
I see you're excited. Let's hold on to that excitement.
Calamate, Jackie.
That's, no, don't. It's okay. It's fine.
Continue introing.
Yes. The Mexico Relocation Guide has voted San Miguel as the #1 city to relocate to in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of their video, they did ask for a little shout out. Say, hey, if you agree, if you disagree, go ahead and share your opinion. So here we are. We're going to share our opinions. And this also does coincide with a video that we're actually doing with the Mexico Relocation Guide. We were interviewed with them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have links to the guide itself in the description, as well as links to our video with the Mexico Relocation Guide, so you guys can check them out.
Mm-hmm.
Great resource. Can't say enough about it. It made our move to Mexico extremely easy.
We actually used it.
We are
used it.
not only
What is it? We're not only the hair club president.
Yeah.
But
we don't own or represent the Mexico
but I use the
Relocation Guide,
product
but we
too.
are clients of it and can vouch for it.
Yeah, it's true.
So as they were going through, we won't necessarily say what is the best city in Mexico to relocate to because we have not had that much experience with all of the cities throughout the country to even give that. But we will give our perspective on San Miguel as being the #1 city.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought up a lot of great points, a lot of things that we kind of think about.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about San Miguel, I will say point #1 I think they brought up was the cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
And when they spoke about cost of living, they said around $3,000 a month U.S.
Mm-hmm.
is good enough to live comfortably in San Miguel.
Mm-hmm. As a couple.
Mm-hmm. What is your opinion on that number? Is it high? Is it low? Is it livable? Because people tend to think that San Miguel is really expensive, which it can be.
Mm-hmm.
But what's your opinion on that $3,000 a month price point?
I think it's a generous budget.
Yeah.
Because most of us do not have, let's just say, a $1,500 rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just putting that at, let's just say $1,500. Especially coming from the States, $1,500 is a deal.
Yeah.
Is a steal, right?
Yeah.
So you come here, you're like, ooh, I can get this big old house or this lavish, apartment, townhouse or whatever for $1,500. But most of us will come and be like, you know what, I can afford that, but you know what, I actually can live just as nicely in an $800 or $900 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I won't say that most of us come down here and have that mindset.
You don't think
to save
so?
money. I don't know.
No. I'm saying once they get here.
Right.
Like,
when you first come down, I think you see $1,500 and see what you can get
want to go for that.
You want to go ahead and spend that $1,500. I think that's definitely our mindset when we first came down.
Yeah.
But now that we've been here for a while, we do understand, different neighborhoods. You don't have to be in the most trendy neighborhood.
Right.
That's the closest to downtown. Like San Miguel is really small.
Mm-hmm.
You're never really that far away from anything.
Right.
Especially if you come down with a car, like you can live anywhere. It's no problem.
Right.
So thinking about, ourselves, we did start off at assuming we would be paying around $1,500 a month, but then found much better things and, neighborhoods that were maybe one neighborhood away from the trendy neighborhood that was $800 to $900 a month.
Right.
And it gets even cheaper than that if you,
if you really want to, right? Instead of having
due
3
diligence.
bedrooms, you can do a 2-bedroom or what have you, right?
right.
Or like you said, go to another neighborhood. We say gringo, they say gringos here, but we say expats or immigrants, right? So there are a couple of neighborhoods where you will see a lot of expats and immigrants. That's your San Antonio, that's your Guadalupe? And of course downtown Central too, Centro Histórico.
Yeah.
But back to the budget part though, the money aspect, once you realize, okay, I really can have a domicile for less than $1,000 US.
A domicile?
I'm just trying
When do you ever call it? You just trying to sound smart now?
just trying to sound cute.
Okay.
Can you let me?
I'm sorry. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thanks. For $1,000 or less. And then you tack on your electric bill is going to be $5 to $10.
Yeah.
Water bill, $5 to $10. Having your gear phones delivered, that's your drinking water, that's $10 for the month.
Yeah.
So once you start with the biggest one, and then the other ones really are their drops in buckets, especially to the American psyche.
Yeah.
I think the most expensive utility we have is our internet.
Internet, really, yeah.
Right. So internet, and then you throw in, because you are going to go out to eat. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Period, point blank and simple.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you're going to find some place to go eat. That's going to tick your budget up. And then, like a lot of us don't have cars. Some do, but many of us don't. So then we need to factor in Uber.
Yeah, Ubers and taxis.
And taxis.
Yeah, and if you're a walker, then you can do a whole lot of walking and not have to pay for transportation. I will say if you happen to have a car here, I don't know from personal experience, but I would have to imagine the upkeep on your car.
It's a man down.
It would have to be ridiculous. Like all the streets are cobblestones. There are no stoplights. Like there's 1 or 2 stoplights in the city as a whole for the most part. The rest of it is really gauged by stop signs or speed bumps. So like you're just constantly, every street you go on is going to have tons of speed bumps. Your shocks and your tires are going to have
it's a
bad day
situation every day.
So I have to imagine upkeep on the car is very expensive. And I think gasoline is a little bit more expensive down here as well. So, all in all, once you kind of pay for your rent, a lot of the other utilities really aren't much to pay for, particularly coming from more expensive countries. And even as you're looking at places around here, you start looking at, okay, I can get something that includes utilities.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. And that's
sometimes
fully,
it's not even a good deal to include the utilities.
Oh, really?
Because, maybe with utilities is an extra, like $100, $200. But without it, like your utilities would never cost that much.
Never be that much, right?
Yeah.
It just sounds good.
It sounds good.
Yeah, it's a convenience factor.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, we're even talking about $800 to $900 a month for rent. It could be fully furnished.
Yes.
Down to the spoons and forks.
Exactly.
Literally.
Because you'll find a lot of people who maybe started out as an Airbnb and just, weren't being successful at it or didn't like that constant upkeep of an Airbnb and decide to switch over to long-term rentals.
Long-term rentals, yep.
So it's really set up like an Airbnb, but it is a long-term rental. Yeah.
Yep. Don't have to buy anything. Sheets, everything are provided.
Yeah.
So it really can be so cost effective. You just buy the things that you want to make yourself comfortable. So yeah, I think 3,000. Mariana's number was maybe a little higher, but that also could be for another demographic too.
Yeah, I mean it's a place where you can spend a lot if you want to, or you can spend less if you want to.
Correct.
Everything here is not inexpensive. Like you may go to other cities in Mexico where everything just is inexpensive. You can't spend a whole lot of money if you wanted to. That is not this place. If you want to spend 50, 60,000 pesos a month, you can do that easily. So that $3,000 a month in that budget could pay for just the rent. You would have an outstanding place for sure.
Living like a...
But you don't have to pay that much.
You don't have to. And literally to be very comfortable.
Yeah.
Like when Mona came to visit, I told her the cost and everything, and she was like, so you all were about to be across the street for double the price. And now you over here half the price.
Yeah.
And so, but the funny thing is she was really trying to compute in her head, normally when you're saving that kind of money where you live, you're looking for squalor.
Yeah.
You're looking for you're really looking for danger.
Yeah.
You listening out for some gunshots. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, really, you're looking around for trash. You're looking around something to denote that this is less than.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about here. Like, you really have options.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I'm
even
saying?
like the community we live in, you can say on some points it is less than. It is less convenient. The house we were going to get was in a neighborhood called San Antonio, very popular neighborhood. It happened to be an architect designed house. It was gorgeous, beautiful. But space wise, it's the same amount of space that we have in this house. This one is not, special architect build. It's, very similar to other houses next to it. It's not a unique piece of real estate, but it's in a neighborhood that just has less conveniences. There isn't 3 to 4 bakeries here. There isn't 3 to 4 fruiterias around every corner. Like it's
across the highway.
It's across the highway. So like there is small differences here, but if you are a walker, even a little bit, we can go around the corner and up the hill and get all the shopping we need. Meat market, fruit market,
the little footpath takes you right into San Antonio.
Right, so you can go literally up under the highway and get into San Antonio anyway within 5 minutes. So
I don't know how fast he walking, y'all, but it took me 11, 13 last time I clocked it. But continue.
11 or 13, please. Enjoy your extra 6 or 7 minutes.
Yo, I'm just looking cobbled. You got
to add some time for cobble.
I'm telling you, it's not the distance, it's the terrain. Are you kidding me? Shoot, walk fast if you wanna. But seriously, it's just knowing that, you can save half.
Yeah. And
just so y'all know, our rent was it $850? Was it $900?
It's 15,000 pesos, which right around like $850, $875, I think, with the exchange rate right now. So obviously with the exchange rate, it's going to fluctuate a little bit. But it's inexpensive by a lot of standards.
3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, inner courtyard, rooftop terrace, full view of the city.
Yeah. Air conditioning in the bedroom, so you can at least sleep comfortably at night.
Y'all, thank the Lord for
wish it was in every other room, but
thank God for that sleep
at least it's
time.
in the bedroom.
What? Yeah, that's true. So we have air conditioning too, fully furnished.
Yeah.
And the only modern convenience we don't have is a dryer, but we don't need it. Like literally.
Yeah. Mexican Sunshine will dry your clothes in 5 minutes.
We take that little load of clothes up to that roof and it dries. So like that's the only modern convenience we don't have.
Yeah.
Maybe in a dishwasher, but I digress. But we really don't miss the dryer.
Yeah.
So very affordable. So absolutely check mark on that one. They got that one right.
So one that I do want to bring up that I think they did not get quite right is that they said San Miguel is walkable for people with mobility issues. Now, I'm going to agree and disagree on this one.
Only certain communities. You think?
Only certain communities. It is a tough walk in certain places. If you live right downtown, Central Historical, and you don't leave that area, you might be okay. Depending if you take the right street. But a hill will pop up on you in a minute.
It will. That's the biggest thing. Like literally, a hill will pop up.
Yeah.
And it could be a man down.
Yeah. And I will say, even though it is a tough city to walk through, I see very many retirees who are not in tip-top physical condition braving these streets every day. I also see
ski poles.
abuelas who have probably been here their entire lives who out with a cane and they're just working up and down the street.
That's true.
Granted, they're probably more used to it than we are. So even though I feel like it's not so walkable, people are doing it.
Right. You can survive.
Yeah.
But there is no ease necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely wouldn't say that to anybody.
Yeah.
And keeping in mind too, a lot of Mexico has higher elevations.
Yeah.
So if you have heart conditions, you have to consider that. And then if you have anything that's hindering your walking, you have to consider not only the hills, but specifically for San Miguel, it is cobbled. So, just crossing the street, that's it.
Yeah.
You could be a man down.
And then on top of that, the air quality here isn't the greatest.
It's not as bad as Mexico City, though, right?
No, not as bad as Mexico
But
City for
sometimes
sure.
it can be a little.
But we do have a lot of brush fryers here, just naturally.
Yeah.
As well as car emission standards are different in Mexico, so I don't think the mufflers are as good on cars, and the streets can be pretty packed with a lot of cars at times. So you'll get a lot of just smoke and really different kinds of smoke in the air.
Every now and then
particulates.
there definitely are like
And it's really dry.
smoggy days. Yeah.
Right, and you add that to the elevation. If you have asthma, breathing issues, really heavy allergies,
That
to
could
like
be a
dust and things
problem.
like that, it could be problematic. as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So something
Think about
obviously, if
that.
you're ever thinking about relocating or coming down to visit, like just come down, check it out for a little while, see how your system reacts to being at this elevation.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true.
Another thing that they brought up is that there is the idea that it's too American, but there also is a great feeling of Mexican authenticity here. And I think there's always this balance in San Miguel of, is it too American? Is it too tailored to tourists? But also, when Mexicans want to come have traditional festivals, religious festivals,
They roll up deep.
this is the destination.
What?
So how tailored to Americans can it be
Right.
if this is still the destination for locals to come to have their traditional celebration?
Right.
And there are literally, every neighborhood around town has parades and fireworks and festivals. This past week, they've had festivals in Valle de Maíz, shooting off fireworks every night. Like,
They've
this
been
is
so
still
pretty.
very much a Mexican town infused with the Mexican culture. And, as much as there are people from around the world here, they have not overshadowed the local culture,
Absolutely
in my
not.
opinion.
I don't see the Americanization of it, meaning I guess we're saying Western, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking fast food, we're talking Starbuckses, we're talking gyms, right? Those things. Well, I mean, there are a couple of gyms, yeah. There is one Starbucks in San Miguel,
And one McDonald's.
one McDonald's,
And one
one
Burger
Burger King,
Yeah.
one Domino's,
Yeah.
one Little Caesars,
And
one Pizza Hut.
the way that the local community has reacted to the Little Caesars
What?
coming, I can't even say that's an American thing, because in America, Little Caesars is not,
It's not the jam.
it's not the jam.
Yeah, right.
But here they are literally lined up around the block
Yeah.
for Little Caesars.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible pizza.
Well, I don't agree with him on that, but we definitely don't be lined up. It's not number one, I don't think, in the U.S.
So, a view into what we're working on, we are looking at doing a separate channel for just food reviews locally within San Miguel. And we are planning to do a video on what's the best pizza in town. So I will ask you on the spot now, in that list of restaurants we will be visiting,
Yeah.
is Little Caesars on that list of best pizzas in San Miguel? Would you put that on your list to go check out and possibly see if it could compare to the likes of Pizzeria SMA or La Favolosa or Neapolitan?
No.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
my
We couldn't hear you. Could you speak
Can we
directly into the
move on
microphone?
let's go back
Thank
to
you.
what you were saying, though. It is not, to me, it's not Americanized terribly or terribly westernized, in my opinion. And this is so crazy. So, like, for example, the fanciest grocery store I've ever been to has been here.
Yeah.
Did they model that after something? I don't know necessarily what the standard 100% is westernized. You understand what I'm saying? But what I do know is that every neighborhood I've been to, there have been no less than 2 Mexican bakeries on one block.
Yeah.
There is a fruiteria. There are going to be taco stands. There are going to be your carnitas, spots, and it is very Mexican here. It is very, very Mexican here.
Yeah.
Folks knock on the door selling honey.
Yeah.
I don't get that kind of treatment at home.
No.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might drop off the little honey bear at my house, but I mean, to me, it is very Mexican here. And I guess the only way I can say it too, they're Western comforts. So there are the big box stores. We don't technically have a Walmart, but we have a La Comer, and we have a City Market, and we have Soriana, There's a Liverpool, which is like a Macy's, right? Or a really, really nice JCPenney or whatever.
Yeah.
So we have box stores, but it is not overly Americanized here.
Yeah, and I
In
think
my humble opinion.
what people tend to react to is the language of English being on many restaurants' menu, right? So
Okay.
the menu, like they have two versions, or you can flip it over and there's
That's
English
true.
on the back. A lot of places have people that speak English that work there, so that it is comfortable for you if you speak English to come here.
Yeah.
But
But I don't think that's Americanized. I think that's just knowing your audience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I bet you if you go, was it Northwest DC where Gallaudet? You're going to find a ton of deaf restaurants.
Right.
You're probably going to have a lot of Braille menus.
Yeah.
Just knowing your audience doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean to me.
Right, and you'll see that in California, in the Southwest, even in most government buildings across the U.S., there is Spanish. You know, the signs are in two languages.
Yeah.
The forms are in two languages.
Yeah.
It's about knowing your audience and making sure that they are able to take advantage of your services. You know, if you're in San Miguel and 20% of the population is not from here and they speak English,
And you want that money.
and you want that money, it would make sense to cater to them to
Correct.
some extent.
Correct.
But I do think the local culture is very aware of the outside presence and doesn't necessarily make it easy for them to change their culture. So while I think there's probably 55 places you could put a Starbucks,
It's a coffee shop.
there's only one in Central, but
Only
there's
one.
like 4 patios.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
that's really interesting. But I bet you it's a Mexican owner.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they are still looking out for their own and making sure that, you know, there's plenty of examples of, you know, how gentrification comes in and ruins your, you know,
Your
economy
community.
in your community.
Yeah.
So while, you know, there is an effect on the economy with the U.S. dollar that comes down, I don't think it's affecting the culture in the same way that it affects the economy.
It doesn't seem like they bow to it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this though. Now, if you want to talk about some Americanized, I think maybe the hotel industry, maybe. You think?
I don't know.
got
Expand
that-
on that.
Well, we got the Hilton, we got Hyatt, we have Marriott building, we have the Waldorf Astoria is about to come. That
don't know.
5-star kind of a situation. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we already have that with the Rosewood. Are the Hilton and the Hyatt named the Hilton and the Hyatt? Because I know we went to Numu, which was a Hyatt property.
I believe so.
So, like, it's part of the Hyatt family, but it isn't presented in a way that's Hyatt. It's
Right,
presented
it's
in
a
a way that
boutique.
feels high-end Mexican luxury, which you haven't
What?
had a taste of high-end Mexican luxury.
What?
The architecture,
The architecture
the
here
interior
is
design,
sick.
it's all ridiculous. Like,
It's
extremely
sick.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
Um,
gorgeous.
Literally, the hotel that we went to, Numu, and that's in the Mora Mesa de Sol, Marura Mesa de Sal, that restaurant we went to.
Yeah, for my birthday.
Kind of an old video from now. It's kind of the old branding.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link to that in the video if you want to see what that hotel and that restaurant looks like. It's all gorgeous. But like that is, you could kind of say westernized to some extent, but it is fully Mexican luxury. It is priced like it's a Western property.
You better say that thing.
Because this is a tourist town. It is a luxury tourist town. You're going to come here and pay some money if you stay somewhere. It's not a cheap place to stay.
That's true.
So that kind of leads me into, I think, the last point, which is that there is a strong expat, I'll say immigrant community here, and that there is plenty of opportunity for you to get into cultural activities and be able to do it within your native language. And I can say that, you know, haven't been a ton of places in Mexico so far, a couple, you know, cities here and there, but the immigrant community here is very welcoming, very engaged, always something going on, always
Yeah.
something to do.
Yeah, there was a brunch today.
There was a brunch today, and
Yeah.
we did not make it again.
Yeah.
It's always so far out. Michelle, have it a little closer inside.
No, this one was
That's
closer.
me.
I know,
But
but
I
this
know.
one was. But she still finds those good spots.
She does find good spots.
What?
She was out at the golf course. That was,
What? Yeah, that's
I'm
what
sure,
it
an
was.
amazing spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's always something to do here. For it to be such a small town, so close knit.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like it's a big city in that there's always something going on. There's always a new restaurant. There's always some sort of artistic, activity, some sort of cultural activity, a local festival.
Yes.
You should not be wanting for anything to do unless it's just something that's not up your alley.
Right. And that's on a big and a small scale too.
Yeah.
So like today was a Black San Miguel meetup. So I think it's every last Sunday, there's a big brunch for our community. And funny thing is sometimes folks they'll live in other parts of Mexico, like PV, Puerto Vallarta, or Guadalajara, right? Mexico City or Querétaro. And they're like, oh, we're going to go hang out with Michelle and the gang. And so they'll come in from other parts of Mexico. So that'll be a large event. Sometimes we have a Black History Month event. Next week, we're going to have the Black Music Month event.
Yep.
So that can draw 30, 40, 50 people at one time. But then, of course, within that larger group, we have the smaller subgroups. You know what I mean? So there's a group, smaller subgroup of folks with kids. We have children that live here now. And then, there's the little middle-aged, the little clicky clicks. And then there's the other little clicky click, and then the older clicky clicks. And there are even young people, like the 20-somethings. So that we have like high 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So there are small cliques for everybody.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Outside of the Black groups, there's foodie groups, there's the adventure hounds who go out and go to different restaurants and different events. And there's just always something going on. So I will invite you all to come down and visit and see San Miguel. Mexico Relocations Guide says it's one of the best cities to relocate to. I think we are
number
here.
one.
Number one.
It was voted number one by her audience.
We enjoy it. It's not perfect. But I think if you come here, even just to visit for a vacation, just
everyone
for a weekend,
loves it.
for a week,
everybody
comes here and enjoys it.
Yeah.
So this week we are talking about the difference between maybe white racism versus Black bias. And I come to this point from, I think, a lot of those who you see relocating to Mexico are even just leaving the U.S., I should say, in general, and moving abroad, are doing so because of many reasons: the political environment, the financial environment, but also the racial environment, the tension, the death, the killing, the violence against people of color. And I think that's something that when you are raised up in it, you are trained in it, you have a certain expectation, a certain reaction to things. So when you come into an environment that is different, that doesn't have maybe as much overt racism, that maybe it isn't built into every systemic structure
right.
in their environment, or it is, or it's built into it in a different way. And that, I think when you're in America, you see a white face and it gives you a certain, to me, I think an instant bias to some extent. Not that it's unwarranted, not that it's not from experience and repeated offense, but it is a natural
logical
reaction.
PTSD.
Right, logical PTSD.
Yeah.
Very good, very
Thank
good
you.
statement. I like that.
My pleasure.
So I think some of those things you carry with yourself here.
The baggage.
When you leave the country,
comes.
you don't get to leave that baggage behind sometimes the way you want to. And it's something that you have to, I think,
work at,
train out of yourself, learn to relax a little bit. Especially when you come to some place like here in San Miguel, where there is still a lot of other immigrants from the U.S. Who bring their same racism baggage down with them as well, who still think that, I'm back home and I can talk to you however I want to talk to you. That is not the case. So I think, you had a friend come down, Mona, came and stayed for a couple weeks, came to visit the city. And she had I don't want to say altercation, but a run-in, a discussion with someone on the plane. And I want you to share that story because I think it's sort of indicative of
what we're talking about. So, Mona was in first class. And
as Mona tends to be.
You know what? I don't know.
Is she not?
I don't know. I don't know. But she was in first class that time.
I just know Mona to be a very upstanding, upper class individual
She is.
who is maybe not flying first class.
Right. She may. I'm gonna say
She takes that option, I think, when she has that option.
I will definitely say she probably does first class, not necessarily because she can just afford it, but because she's tall.
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see that.
Some extra knee
Got
space.
it. Yeah, man, for some legs.
Yeah.
But every now and then we fly first class too, y'all. Every now and then.
When we can afford it,
What?
it's nice. And when we can't afford it, it is not nice.
The hip room. Moving on. So
We need to talk about that too. Airline seat space in Mexico.
God bless us.
Literally, genetically, there are smaller people.
Right.
We don't fit into that genetic smallness.
Man.
Airplanes are tight to begin with. And
My
then you
Lord.
say, oh, this population is shorter. Let's give them even less leg
You're
room.
welcome. So back to the story. So very simply, y'all, Mo and I were just chatting and she goes, I had a conversation and that's thunder. I'm telling him that so that we can make sure we safe, y'all. So anyway, make sure y'all don't see us.
Half the courtyard is covered, the other half is not.
Right.
So if rain comes, we need to run quickly and get this stuff out there after rain.
So, just a very casual conversation with her seatmate. Very nicely. Oh, hi, how are you? How did you get your ticket?
Why are you worried about how I got my ticket?
But what do you mean, how did I get my ticket? So, in a clutching of the pearls moment,
How dare you?
being the kind, loving sister Christian girl that she is, she kindly just let her know the same way you got yours. And they didn't speak for the rest of the flight. So I don't know if that was from her starting point to Dallas or if that was from Dallas to Querétaro. But kindly let you know the same way you got yours.
Yeah.
So now the question is, how did you get your ticket? But to the whole question of it is the black bias. See, I don't necessarily like the way you have that.
Okay. What's your issue with black bias? Because in some way it puts some responsibility on us, which I know you don't want to hold on to. But if you're in an environment, and this is my point, and this is not me saying that racism doesn't exist or that there is no racism. Of course it does. Of course it happens all the time. I'm just saying it doesn't happen every time.
That's right. It doesn't happen every time, but it just happens so often that we're conditioned. And I think that's just the word that is so annoying to me, that we are conditioned.
Yeah.
Right? And it really takes either concerted effort or the other party letting us know that they're not being racist.
Right.
I.e., same visit. We're hanging out in the Yardine and we're watching all this cultural stuff going on. And I call them light-skinned cousins because I really believe we're all family. I'm really serious. Y'all know I love Jesus. So we all God's people.
Blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus.
We all God's people. So I really I do not, how do you say, shun them as if we're not related. We're family, whether they want to accept it or not, right? We're the same people. And I actually am a third white. Thank you, Xavier, for my DNA kit for Christmas one year. So I understand that we are more connected than divided, right? Like on a human level. So anyway, nice white guy, he entreats us in a conversation and he goes, I'm Canadian. I'm not, he's letting
I'm not American. I'm not racist
cool,
American.
Right, I'm a cool white person. I don't know what he's trying to.
I'm your cool northern cousin.
Right, I am your non-racist Caucasian cousin.
Yeah,
and we were like, okay, you Canadian person who is not racist.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, there's racism in Canada too.
And there's racism everywhere.
You know what I mean? Like, so don't hide behind your Canadian flag and your maple syrup.
And that might also make me even more wary that you feel like you have to announce
say
yourself.
That. And I think that's
which is sad in and of itself.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, why can't we just talk to each other as people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just be regular. Have a regular conversation. Like, hey, my name is Karen. What's yours?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I'm here on vacation. What about you guys? It's never a give and take
Right.
that I've experienced from our Caucasian cousins.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, I need information from you.
Yeah.
And it is the most challenging thing.
Yeah.
It's the most challenging thing. And I really have to get myself under wraps. And remember I told you, like, when we first got here, I know for sure, we would be walking on the street, right? Or in a cafe somewhere eating. And, you know, they go, Buenos dias. And I'm like, you American, you know you speak English. And I'm just going, hi, how are you? Just an ugly attitude.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm like, oh my God, they're just Spanish.
White people are everywhere.
Yeah, like
yes.
it's a white Mexican. Like,
they were colonized by the Europeans as well.
right? And
Yes.
so I had to check myself, like, they're just saying hello.
Yes.
And so stop thinking they're trying to avoid me.
Right. So that situation, you brought your bias.
I brought my bias.
that you did not have to bring.
Didn't have to bring it. She could have stayed home.
Right. And that to me was just one of the most complicated. Oh, they're saying Buenos dias because they don't want to speak to me.
Yeah, I know.
And that to me was just like,
I can make stuff hard.
as you know, the husband of
Wait a minute.
a woman, y'all know how women mind can think sometimes. But anyway, back to your story. So I get your point of
I'm gonna fight you.
the woman came into the conversation wanting something
Yeah.
rather than initiating a normal conversation.
Right. Because
Right.
she could have been like, hey, I got a good deal on Priceline.
Right.
What about you?
Or I got screwed over because I went through this site and now I see that everybody else is getting, 20% cheaper price than I am.
Something.
Right.
Something.
So like you don't really know the root of that conversation unless you
give
continue
it a chance.
the conversation.
And so my husband wanted to hear, well, what did Mona say? He wanted to
and
hear.
Mona was like, I'm not dealing with it. I'm shutting it down.
Yeah. But to your point,
Mm-hmm.
there could have been more.
Right. So I think.
Meaning positive more.
Right. So first it is the conversation initiator.
Mm-hmm.
They have the burden and responsibility to enter that conversation in good faith and let it work up to the thing that maybe you want to get out of the conversation.
Yeah.
We don't have to come up and just like, hey, let me hit that. Like, no, you can't sweet talk me a little bit first.
Yeah.
Like you can't know me, you know what I'm saying? Like
I do.
let's not jump to the end point. Let's actually ease into
to
it,
the
build our way up
conversation,
to it.
right?
And then there's also, I think, less of a responsibility on our end, but still could be a responsibility to say, hey, this doesn't have to be a racial situation.
Just
Let's see where it goes.
let's go back and forth a little bit. Give them a chance.
But also, like,
Be patient.
if you're somebody who is having that nerve tapped on all the time, it's difficult to slow down and say,
That is correct.
this could maybe not be the thing that I think it is.
That is correct.
Whereas for us, we're not having those type of interactions as often as we did when we were back home in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe for us, it's easier. Whereas for Mona, she's traveling the world, she's in different places, but she's in the U.S. a lot. And I'm sure gets all of that nerve touched all the time.
Right.
So it's like, I don't even want to get into this.
Right.
I don't have the patience
I ain't
for
playing your game.
Stop, slow down. Right. So that's interesting. I think, what we do have here from other immigrants, our light-skinned cousins, is sort of that unnecessary questioning at times.
I think you hit a good point. There is no ease into the conversation. And I hit a good point. There is no give and take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's y'all retired? What y'all do for a living? You live here? Wow. It's like,
But even a lot of the
it's
questions
like,
that I
they're
get,
vetting us. I
get
don't need
that-
to be vetted.
I get that feeling sometimes, but
I'm
also
sorry, y'all.
a lot of the people here are vacationing.
Mm-hmm.
So they assume that we always see you. You don't look like you live here.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably vacationing like we are.
And the thing is, I guess they could look like they live here because they are white Mexicans, but
Right, but if you're here vacationing, you see black people in this city in Mexico, your first assumption is that they're vacationing like I'm vacationing, not necessarily that I live here and you can't. So I don't necessarily take, some of those questions. It usually starts out with, "Hey, how long are you guys staying?" "Oh, we live here." To me, that's not an abnormal question. If I go on vacation anywhere, that's an opening question. That's an ease-in question to get into the conversation.
Yeah.
If the first question is, "Oh, do you rent or do you buy?" Or "Where did you buy your house?"
Right.
To me, that feels like you're
They're
trying
prying.
to vet. You're trying to get
They're-
into. You're trying to, measure, is my house big enough compared to what you
Right,
have?
right. Do y'all have a housekeeper yet?
Right.
Like, that is not the standard. I'm not trying to meet your standard.
Right.
Like, how? That's not necessarily making it.
Yeah.
Because I got a housekeeper. Like, what? They ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Period. They ask a lot of questions.
Right. And a lot of people move down here to be able to afford a certain lifestyle they could not afford at home. So while you could not afford someone to cook your meals and be your housekeeper in the U.S., you come down here is a lot more affordable.
Yeah.
And some people are like, that is their sign of making
I've
it
made
here.
it, yeah.
And they want to
Some
see if
people-
you've made it yet.
Some
too.
people just like to pay their doggone electric bill.
That's it.
I'm just saying.
It's not that hard. So I think the interesting thing that I look at is we're in an environment where, I want to think that, hey, there's not many white people here. But there's actually more kinds of white people here. There's obviously the immigrants that come over.
As a black person, we have to understand that.
Right, and we have to understand the Mexican dynamic that they have white people and non-white people as well. And there is a difference in social economic status between those two groups. The racism isn't as harsh here, but there is some here. That's not saying that it doesn't exist. And also we bring to the table to that group of people not only blackness, but also Americanness. And I'm going to say that a second time in case y'all didn't get that because the truck was rolling by. Not only blackness, but we are Americans. And that actually demands a certain type of respect around the world, strangely enough, which I
it's
think
true.
over time is being eroded by,
Friends.
current and past presidents.
Bae.
The orange, yeah, okay. For those of you listening to the podcast, we have a new
Microphone
orange
cushion.
pop filter windscreen on top of the microphones, and she pointed to the color orange to denote a former president who is now on trial for many, many atrocities against
Who could
human nature.
possibly get back in? Y'all, don't let this happen. Please. Please.
Right.
What's
so,
up, James Brown? Please vote. Go get some teenagers registered to vote and have them vote. Elders, get them to the center to vote. Please, y'all, go vote. Speaking of which, we should vote too because we are
yeah.
still citizens.
Mail-in,
But
yeah.
we need to do a mail-in vote.
Yeah.
And we can do that with our consulate office. Just a little side note.
Yeah.
But yes, we should listen and we should take our time. I do agree. And I was just going to say, being American, I learned about that and it made me feel very weird when I visited South Africa because of the colonization there. And this is just my own opinion, and I think it's quite accurate, but if a land has been colonized, the indigenous people of that land are always on the bottom of the totem pole. Always, right? So in South Africa, you have indigenous people, i.e. the Africans. What's one of the groups? Trevor Noah's family.
The Tosa.
Yeah, the Xhosa people.
Yeah.
The Xhosa people. That's one of the indigenous groups, right? So they're on the lowest part of the totem pole.
Yeah.
But of course, they were the originators there, right?
Yeah.
They're black. I'm black. But even though we're, I guess, maybe an American system, we're both black. and could be held to some kind of, discrimination. In South Africa specifically, we would go up in rank because we're American.
Right.
And it made me feel so weird because I went there, and especially with that, anyone who's been, y'all can leave us a comment, okay? If you've been and you've had that experience, it's like you're there with your people.
Yeah.
But then the system tells you that there's a difference between you and your people.
Right.
And that thing, it burned me up and broke my heart.
Yeah.
It was very hard to accept.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I think what I am trying to do, what I'm trying to request of those of us who come down here to leave the racism in America is to let your guard down some.
A little bit, yeah.
Don't ever put that guard all the way away. Don't ever fully expose yourself. That's a recipe for disaster.
But because their power is lessened.
Yeah.
They're not picking up the phone, even though 911 is the same one in both countries.
Yeah.
They're not calling 911.
Right.
Because we're out walking our dog.
Right.
Right? So their power is almost minuscule.
Right.
The only thing they really can't do is just hurt your feelings in a conversation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And be annoying. So I think that helps.
Yeah.
To know that there is no power.
Yeah.
So
I think to me, it's disappointing. It is almost a waste of a great environment if you come down here
with all that baggage,
and that nerve exposed, and you're not enjoying yourself. You're not enjoying this environment, the extra freedoms in certain areas that you're afforded by being here. You're not able to take advantage of because you are so sore from being constantly beat in the United States. I'm not saying that's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Probably take some therapy for some folks, for sure. But if you can,
be conscious
release that
about
baggage,
it, right?
be here, be conscious, and just enjoy the space for what it is. You're going to learn some new burdens to carry, some new nerves to get pushed here.
So let that one go.
Let that one go
by the wayside.
Don't throw that on top of the new stuff you're going to get here. Like, let that baggage go. So if I can, say anything to my people, to my folks, both sides of the aisle, brown skin, light skin cousins, leave your racism at home. They don't need it here. Leave your, hurt feelings and PTSD if you're black folks at home as much as you can. You don't need it here. Still protect yourself. Still
be wise.
Be
right?
wise.
Yeah, always be wise.
But give yourself some space to breathe, some air, some fresh air, some time without that burden,
that drama.
Yeah. Because we're still carrying, many of us, PTSD out of slavery over generations.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much stuff we have to work through. Let's be in an environment where we hopefully don't have to work through that stuff any longer. It can be healed. We can put a Band-Aid on it. And it doesn't have to constantly get ripped off every single time we try and heal it. And this week we have an interesting topic, of course, about Mexico, as we all love and hate Mexico, depending on who's listening. We see y'all in the comments. This week we're talking about asking the question, why would Mexicans leave Mexico to go to the U.S.? I think that's a narrative that kind of we've all heard over the years. It's been true for a very long time. There's a lot of Mexicans, South Americans, Central Americans in general kind of coming across the border, looking for a better life in America. But we've kind of done the opposite, right? We've
literally
gone from America to Mexico.
We've flown south. They've flown north.
Exactly. So I think the question is, why would they leave this? All of this greatness that we have found and that we love.
I know.
And that we have kind of left America to come to. And I think maybe one of the first ways to look at it is financially, right? Monetarily. The money that you make in the U.S. tends to stretch a little further in Mexico.
Right. Tends to. Well, obviously, depending on what kind of lifestyle you have. But I think for those who may be leaving for financial reasons, if they get to the States, absolutely, it'll make their lives increase for sure.
And as I think about it, the same reason they would leave and come to the U.S., the same reason we would leave the U.S. and come here, because of financial reasons, is you can make more money in the U.S. and live cheaper in Mexico. So whereas we may already have some funding sources in the U.S., and a lot of people that come down are still generating income from the U.S., we're coming down to Mexico because of the lower cost of living, the better cost of living, the better quality of life. And we're using that to our advantage to say, hey, we got this American dollar. The exchange rate tends to be in our favor. So we come down here and we spend that American dollar a lot, and it stretches a lot further in Mexico. But basically, they're doing the same thing. Right? They're coming across the border, earning that U.S. dollar and sending it back home.
Sending it back home.
It was a couple weeks ago, we were driving through Centro, and there's literally like a line around the block from Banco Azteca. And we didn't know. We'd see this line every once in a while. We didn't really know.
Huge line, like why? And it's normally on the weekends or like early mornings, you know. Huge line of people like, what are they giving away for free in there? And it's Western Union.
Yeah, it's basically their version of Western Union. There's family members sending money back home. And literally, I think, if I looked at the line, it was probably 99% women and children. So
for sure,
probably husbands, fathers going away, working in the U.S. and sending money back.
Sending money back, yeah, good observation.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. And I think if we looked at it, we don't even really think about it as much. I think because we're already earning that U.S. dollar. And we look at them and like, why would you ever leave all this? And it's like, it's difficult for some who don't have all the resources to kind of bring their life up to another level. Like, not everybody has the education, not everybody has the opportunity. Depending on where you're living in Mexico, you know, you could be on the richer spectrum or you could be in a much, much poorer spectrum. So as always, as human beings, we're always trying to migrate to a place where we can have a better opportunity.
Correct.
So we get here and we feel like it's great and it's lovely, and we're living in a place of privilege to some extent, right? Where we have that amount of money. We're in a community that's a touristy community. Most people here have some amount of money. They're all living pretty well. There's definitely poorer areas of town for sure, but I mean, San Miguel as a city is doing pretty well, you know, financially. So we don't see a lot of poverty. You'll definitely see some homeless people on the streets here and there, but it's not necessarily overrun. It doesn't feel like a big city with a lot of
I've never seen
poverty.
a tent city here.
No.
And I've been back home recently. Like, you'll see tent cities, whether it's Charlotte or Baltimore, there, San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oakland,
Oakland area. That you will find some places in the U.S. where literally blocks and blocks, streets and streets, and it's not even new.
Right.
Skid Row, that's been around for decades. And that's you know what I mean? So I've never seen that here. I have never seen that here. Maybe what I would consider
Mexico City for sure.
Was it a tent city or was it? I was about to say I have seen like Mexico City. Dilapidated neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? Like shanty towns, if you will.
Yeah, it's probably a step above tents. Shanties, you know, lean-tos or you know, just kind of improvised housing.
Improvised house, rig, electric, and all that kind of stuff. So I've seen that. But never just the I am homeless and this is my tent, like a literal tent, and we are going to live on like public property, if you will, or even private, because a lot of times they get kicked off that space because it's private land or what have you. So I've never seen that in Mexico. You know, but the crazy thing is people move just based off of my own experience and my own you know, I guess my psychological research. We're going to move, and even historically speaking, you know what I mean? Even animals will migrate. So we're looking for water. We're looking for something to eat. We're looking for safety, right? And we also want to make sure that our kids are safe. You know, so it's not just about us, it's about the next generation too. Am I in an environment where we're going to thrive? You know what I mean? People are just, I think, for a lack of a better statement, and one of my favorite statements is we're tired of surviving. We want to thrive. So there it is and there it was. So they move. Look, everybody has a reason. So they go across the border because they want to thrive.
Yeah.
You know, and what's really scary is in some communities there are cartel situations, you know what I mean, where, you know, you've seen on the news recently, you know, mayors and people who are running for mayor and, you know, different political offices, you know, they're just being gunned down and killed. And that's scary. You know what I mean? That's really, really scary. U.S. has issues, but I can't remember a time when I've actually seen that where someone is running, well, maybe in the 60s. You know what I mean? The 60s kind of era. And that's very creepy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they're moving forward because they want to thrive. And in some cases, they're trying to survive.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think I kind of liken it to, you know, there's obviously small towns and big towns. And even in the U.S., if you live in a small town, you may have had a Walmart move in and kill all the small businesses in your town.
Or a highway. Remember how, like, even in Charlotte, it was Independence. All we saw, all those stores, like, it was just shells of stores. Remember? And we were like, what happened? Because that looked like it was a Shoney's. And for those that don't know what a Shoney's is, it used to be a buffet breakfast spot. Bomb. The little potatoes and the eggs.
I don't know if I'd call Shoney's bomb.
Anyway,
we were more of a Bob's Big Boys fan.
Well, I mean, they're like the same.
But honestly, neither one of them were that good. But
anyway,
if you're a kid and it's a breakfast buffet, you're gonna
go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that they were like, they built the highway.
Yeah.
Route 66 died because of the superhighway.
That's the thing. Like in Charlotte, Independence was the main strip throughout the town. But then they turned that main strip into a highway. So, like, it's so fast that no one's stopping.
Nobody's stopping.
So all those businesses along there just went away after a while.
A lot of them did, yeah.
So it's very much, I'm sure, the same thing here, where there are smaller communities where there isn't as much to do, there isn't as much work around. And if you want to go find work, you're going to have to go to a bigger city. You're going to have to go to Mexico City, you're going to Guadalajara, someplace. Or you're going to go across the border and make more money and send it back home, where in your small town, that money will stretch a whole lot further. So even if you're in the U.S. just cleaning houses or working in a restaurant, that little bit of money there, once it comes back here, is a whole lot more.
It's a whole lot, because they can make $15 an hour, you know, easy, between 10 and 15, doing domestic or cooking. And then if they're really skilled, you know, and other areas too, because they're excellent artists, right? Building homes and gardening, and I mean, just everything that you know to do, you can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and make a good living. Yeah, it's not just the how would you say it? It's more than just blue collar work.
Yeah.
You know, or even brown collar work. I don't even know. Is that a thing?
I'm not sure about brown collar work.
Did I just make something up?
Maybe. What are you qualifying as brown collar work? Is it basically the work that people of color?
No, I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm thinking like. Okay, like gardener. I'm thinking that's brown collar, like, or farm help.
Like brown because
of the dirt. Okay. Exactly, not because of the color of their skin. Am I making something up?
You're making something up.
Y'all put in the comments.
There's no brown collar. That's still blue collar.
I've definitely heard of blue collar, white collar, obviously. Yeah. Oh my God.
But I actually like brown collar as it pertaining to race and what positions you're forced into being. I like that definition a little better. Maybe we'll coin that.
We'll coin it. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, if you look at it from another perspective, I actually think there aren't as many Mexicans leaving anymore. The country as a whole, the economy is on the rise. The peso is a lot stronger than it was before. There's a lot more opportunity now. And if you actually look at the statistics,
it's more than just Mexicans crossing the border.
Mexicans. Before, it was really Mexicans and then what they call the Northern Triangle or something like that, which was El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. So those countries that are close to the border.
Okay, yeah.
Now, that only makes up half of the people coming across the border. So the other half are Haitians, Chinese, Russians, Venezuelans. So like, when we think about, you know, all these people coming across the border, the expectation is that, okay, these are Mexicans because they're coming through Mexico. But this is really just the entry point now, right?
It's just a gate.
It's the gate. Right. With
Wow.
a hole in the gate.
Yeah. Hole in the wall.
So I
Literally.
would venture to guess. I haven't looked it up. I probably need to, if you know, leave something in the comments for us. How many Mexicans are actually leaving the country now to come work in the U.S. versus what it was maybe 10 years ago? I would assume it's probably less people coming across the border from Mexico. And coming from places Russia and China, which are heavy communist countries. What do they call them? Sort of Big Brother kind of states where everything you do is being watched.
Yeah.
Everything is being sort of controlled for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are trying to get out of that situation, or even being persecuted by the government. They're trying to get out.
Haiti's seeing some really scary
rough
things
right now.
Yeah.
Between the poverty and the government
and the gangs
and even just consistently being hit over and over again with these natural disasters.
Yeah.
It's just not the place to be right now. Unless you want to go back and really rebuild the country. Like, a lot of people are like, hey, I got to get out of here. And there's even, I can't remember the name of the town, but there's a town in Mexico that they're actually pushing. I don't know if it's just Haitian or if it's African immigrants, but they're kind of pushing them into this particular town. So there's a whole town that actually is acting as almost a jail facility.
Oh.
So if you're a Haitian immigrant, they kind of shift you into this town, and you're not allowed to leave the town without the proper paperwork. So even when we saw the Yarborough's video, when they were kind of going through an area, I think around Chiapas, and the bus would pull over every time we get stopped.
And they came and targeted
And they were looking
him.
for black people in particular, because they were looking for Haitians coming across. Because there's just so many of them trying to get out of Haiti right now. So there's all these people that are trying to get out of bad situations, and America's always the one that's framed as
the
big
land
city
of opportunity.
Dream, land of opportunity, American dream. Which is true and it's not true. Everybody has different access to the American dream. And, the way I think about it is, you pay a whole lot into this American dream, and you either get a big bet and it pays off, or you end up nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a tough way to go, but sometimes that's better than the situation you're in.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Venezuela, their currency is so devalued that people are actually making crafts out of the currency to sell the craft.
That's crazy.
Because a purse made out of bills is actually worth more than the bills themselves, which is nuts.
That's crazy, y'all. That is crazy. Only thing I've ever seen that even comes close to that, it isn't even close, is when you go to the amusement park and you put a penny in, and it goes through the machine, and you press it out, and it has where you are, like King's Dominions, like that. Yeah, I've never seen anything like that. Venezuela, what's going on, guys? Oh my gosh, the money really is worthless.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's worth something there.
Yeah. But to go to another country and get it, let me exchange some Venezuelan pesos or whatever for it.
Yeah, you can keep that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, the narrative that we've heard over the years, over our lifetimes, I think is probably quickly shifting now. There's probably more, maybe just as much migration out of the country as it is into the country at this point, for various reasons. A lot of people don't like sort of either side of the political spectrum these days.
Right.
People like, hey, I hate Trump, and I don't really like Biden too much either, which I get it. And you feel like you're left with no choice at the end of the day. So for us,
two hard choices, or multiple hard choices.
Right, and you have to deal with, okay, I don't like this person, and then I got to deal with the consequences of this person. Whose consequences would I rather deal with?
Yeah.
Because right now, nobody's really doesn't seem like anybody's doing anything in anyone's favor. And depending on your perspective, one is worse than the other.
Right.
But, I'm not happy about either one.
Right.
Trump to me is probably a little bit worse just because I don't care for him as a person.
Yeah.
Biden to me is innocuous and maybe useless in a lot of ways.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Just don't feel like there's a lot happening. But at the end of the day,
we have our own opinions. Go ahead.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So, I wish there was a third or fourth option at the end of the day.
Say it. A good third or fourth option.
Just a good one.
Yeah.
Or at least somebody with different pros and cons in the two guys.
Right.
I don't know. Give me another choice.
Because for me, it's with them, I think they're both too old, and this has nothing to do with age, because I know that there are older people who can run a show. You know what I mean? You know, talk to your Grandma Ruby. Oh, come on now, we sharp as a tack. So it's not about age; it's about their aging process. It's them. It's not their age. It's them with their age. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like there's a total difference. If they were sharp and on it, and you know, moving and grooving and shaking and baking, these jokers are moving and shaking. And no, they're not. No, I'm not gonna say that. But they're not.
Well, the shaking is a different kind.
It's all help me, Lord. I didn't mean.
So before we go too far down this political spectrum, which is not even what we're supposed to talk about, but it does play into the fact that there are reasons why people are leaving the places
Coming this way,
and going the other way,
going across the water too.
Depending on where you are, you may not like your government.
There are a lot of people who are leaving America, who are going to Portugal, who are going to Africa, who are coming to Latin America, and to the islands or what have you, Mexico, because
like the situation
it's normally just a political situation, because these are the people who have means, right, to not only survive but to thrive. They have the means. They're just like, nah, I'm out. I'm out. I'm gonna give something else a try.
Specifically today, we want to get close to those of you who are a little bit scared after watching that debate.
Yikes.
Trump and Biden.
Yikes.
There's a lot of people out there, I'm sure, who looked at that and are like, man, we are screwed.
It's going to be challenging.
There's no good choice.
Uphill.
I think the way they're framing it is the old man versus the con man.
Yes.
Which feels very accurate.
Correct.
We didn't even, let's be honest, we didn't watch the whole debate.
We did not watch the whole debate.
If we were able to.
We watched it 30 seconds because I wanted to watch it. I was bugging him.
Yeah.
Babe, turn on the debate. He's like, why? And I'm like, I mean, obviously we don't live there, but it's still our home country. So let's look at it. So after he allowed me to watch the debate, guys, I think we were on it for all of 30 seconds. Like,
as soon as Biden started talking and his voice was like giving out, he sounded raspy.
We looked at each other.
We were like, this is not going to be good.
Yikes. Yeah. And I couldn't watch an hour and a half of that.
No.
So we turned
it off. But we did catch some highlights after the fact.
We tuned back in for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, the last 5 minutes, and then watched the post debate show with all the pundits and stuff talking about it.
And it didn't get better.
And Democrats are like almost in tears. like
I think Van Jones was crying.
Van Jones probably was crying.
He was crying.
It was very interesting to see the reaction that night, and then the reaction the next day when they kind of realized we don't have no other options.
My God.
Oh, we love Joe. We're going to double down on Joe, and that was just one bad night. And it was like, that was a signal of a whole lot of things that maybe
was a lot.
So I would say I sympathize and empathize in a very special way with those of you who are looking at this situation and saying, hey, maybe I need to get out the country. Maybe I need to leave the U.S. and go someplace else. Maybe across the border to Mexico. Maybe you want to go to Dubai. Maybe you want to go to Germany. I don't know. Wherever y'all feel like y'all need to go to escape whatever madness may be happening or coming soon. Because we felt the same way even before this, like literally years ago during, Trump's presidency in itself. You feel like I need to get out of this place because it's not going the direction I think it is.
Right.
So we're here to talk about today sort of what are the differences between the political situation at home versus political situation where we are here in Mexico.
May I say something though? I want to interrupt you kindly, please, and thank you. You cannot outrun discord.
No.
Right? So there is no land of perfection. You can't do it. Right? So what you have to do is really take time to really educate yourself. For me, pray, You know what I mean? Get some divine intervention and answers and prayer. You also want to use wisdom. Where are those spaces and places that are, for the most part, doing their best to be their best?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there is no necessarily perfect system. There's no perfect country. Maybe Sweden, maybe Norway. No, I'm joking. I don't know. But
it's a little cold for me, so.
But you can't outrun evil.
Yeah.
You can't outrun people's hunger and thirst for power. And money, and so you just have to really make a wise, educated decision, so that when you move, you take your family with you, or what have you, that you are prepared.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with the scary part is that the wave of that Trumpism, that racist, mindset that only a certain population is elite and everybody else is beneath, they're above and we're beneath or whatever. You have to know what community, what nation you're going to be the safest in. You know what I mean? And I know, like, when we were looking at it in one of our previous episodes, we were talking about how we were contemplating Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there are a few countries we were looking at in Africa, and one of them was Rwanda. We pronounce it Rwanda, but they pronounce it Rwanda. And, the leadership, it could be teeter-totter and like dictatorish-y.
Right, and the thing is, like, people look at that political government and that leadership, and people love it, and they see the benefits of it. They see how far he's brought the country.
Right, and we say dictator and we think of Putin.
Right.
But if you can, okay, you're a dictator, but you want me to be educated. I can sit down and be dictated to be educated. You know what I mean? Like, there's a dictator that wants me to have health care and make sure I have internet and make sure women are in positions of being able to be leaders and grow
making sure
companies.
The country is clean and
they have a clean the country, sweep your streets day or whatever.
Yeah.
You can dictate stuff like that, and I might be okay with you doing that.
But
you
the
know
fear
what I mean?
is, like, once you get that amount of power,
are you near going to twist it and turn it?
You're going to go crazy.
Right. And manipulate the people to hurt them, right?
Yeah.
So we use words like that, the socialism and capitalism and dictatorship and all these different terms, and they all can be used for good.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you could turn it around and use it for bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, I say all that to say we have to use wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on where to go, how to be, and how to comport yourself. Yeah. And the government that you may be sitting under, how is it going to affect you, right?
Right.
So bring it back home. Sorry.
And if you are a proponent of democracy, it seems like
it's breaking down.
There are places in the world where they're not in favor of democracy any longer.
Yeah.
At least those that are in power.
Right.
Because they want to be in power for as long as possible.
Right.
And democracy tends not to allow that.
Correct. Right. It's a thing, right?
Right. So if you're looking at leaving the U.S., for Mexico specifically, we're going to talk about our experience.
We're bringing it back home.
For the political situation, I would say don't make your decisions solely based on the politics. We left because of politics, but also because of the violence, because of the racial situations,
cost of living.
So there should be a list of things
that are priorities,
that are making you think about, okay, should I be going someplace else? If politics is the one thing that's going to make you leave, you may be surprised when you get here that the current administration in Mexico is a lot more similar to Trump's administration than you might have thought. They are currently not about democracy. They are about trying to stay in power for as long as possible.
They're chipping away.
So, again, don't think the grass is always greener on the other side in every situation. Cost of living is better here. Violence is better depending on where you are. The type of violence is different. But, violence is violence.
Yeah.
I mean, not,
we don't want to
split hairs on that.
Yeah. But there is a distinction, though.
Yeah.
Violence is the American culture. It's the American way. Stolen land, stolen people, removed people, and no retribution.
Right.
And no atonement, no apologies, none of those things.
Yeah.
So it's different. You know what I mean? Violence isn't the culture here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not where it sprung out of.
Yeah.
America is different.
Yeah.
When it comes to stuff like that. But it's Trumpy here. The politicians are turning Trumpy, but it's not just Mexico. Even across the pond, across the water, in Europe, there are governments that are going into that elitism, like you say, chipping away at that democracy thing, and that is disconcerting. You know what I mean? For people who just want to have a chance to be their best. But now you have governments and leaders who are like, they're going to play puppet, puppet master. That is very creepy.
Yeah, and I don't think Trump is the nexus of all of it, but I think Trump was a great example of here's how you do it in a democratic situation. You get a group of people who have enough power and who have this nationalistic idea that this land belongs to us, so that no matter what we do, it's okay because this land belongs to us. And I think people are using that ideal to kind of run with it and try and manipulate democracy into a place where they can hold on to their power for as long as possible.
But they also have people to manipulate.
Right.
So then you have the people who, they've done studies. There's a certain level of education, that they max out at. There's a certain status quo, and then they've also tapped into that. This, like you say, this is my land. You know what I mean? So it's like it's being taken from us.
Right.
Like our jobs are being taken from us and given to the thems and the others.
Yeah.
And I read a post the other day. I think it was on Facebook, and somebody said, "When was the last time you heard that they took my farming job?" Like nobody.
Right.
Nobody has ever said that. Nobody's coming to take your job. There's plenty of jobs, you know what I mean? And there's plenty of work that we ain't gonna do as Americans. As regular Americans, we're still not gonna do it.
And it's like, I was the CEO of a company and the Mexicans came across the border and they took my job as a CEO, and like, no, they didn't. No, they're coming here doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do.
Right.
For very low pay.
Right. And they're highly skilled.
Right.
And it's not like them taking that job means that they're less than.
Right.
They are highly skilled people.
It just means you don't have the credentials or the resources in this country to do the job that you did back home.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. Yeah, they ain't come and take your calls in the job. No, they didn't. Trina. They didn't do that.
Which is interesting because we've moved here with a particular skill set, and one of the resources that we don't have here is Spanish language as good enough to work in an office environment. So we could be doing jobs here locally that we could be taking from Mexicans, but we're not taking their jobs because we don't have good enough Spanish to go take their jobs. So the idea that people are just coming across the border without all of the prerequisites to go and take these high-paying jobs, they're not stealing jobs from anyone that anybody else really wants.
Right. It's so interesting to think about that.
So we take this across the border. We're talking about leaving, Trump behind and Biden behind too. Let's not act like Biden is, perfect and the greatest candidate in the world. Obviously, he's way past his prime. And even in that, I don't know that people are super excited about Biden regardless. I think we all wish we had a third or a fourth choice, even if Biden was healthy. We'd like to see some more variety in what we have. But when you come across the border here, we currently have President Obrador, affectionately known as AMLO, who is doing things that are very similar to the way that Trump is trying to manipulate democracy in order to keep himself in power.
Undermining systems, throwing out dog whistles for the newspaper people, what are they called? Broadcasters. Journalists, thank you. Journalists to get hurt, and some have been hurt or killed. That is scary. Oh my gosh. And then the new president-elect, supposedly, just part of our research. Y'all have to do your own research.
We are not political specialists, pundits. We don't know all the ins and outs of it. So do your own research, come to your own conclusions. But I think this is our dog whistle to you to say, hey, look at the political situation in the U.S., but also look at the political situation of the place that you are going to. It may not be better than what you are used to. It may just be different. It may be better or worse. But do that research and learn.
Because that's something we didn't think about.
We didn't think about that.
We didn't think about it not one time. But the new Sheinbaum, President-elect Sheinbaum, and on the outside looking in, as like I said, outsiders. it's like, oh, they got a female president, like
First female president of the country.
of the country. So as a lady, I'm like, you better do it, sis. But then she's Trumpy too.
Yeah.
So supposedly she was sort of kind of encouraged, handpicked
by the current
president, who is Trumpy, and with those ideologies. So that's a nightmare, right? But something I just want to say something. What you were mentioning. Do your research. I was traveling a few years ago, and I had a long layover, right, from Charlotte to South Africa, a long layover, and I chose my layover based on where it was the nicest place to go where I could be safe, right? So I had an option to go to France and do my layover in France, but they were having civil unrest. So just to visit, I wanted to make sure I was going to be safe. So that's part of what we're trying to say. Do your due diligence, because if you're thinking about moving somewhere, relocating, is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. Relocating or going somewhere for a month or 6 months or a year, whatever, you have to do that to make sure that you're going to be safe, right?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say that. I had to take a moment to say that too.
And we will take a quick break right here. And if you are really considering about redefining your life abroad, there's a summit happening August 10th through 11th virtually. We're going to show you a quick commercial on that. I want you guys to get engaged with that, understand it, see it, and think, if you're really serious after watching that debate that you may want to go live your life abroad someplace outside the U.S., this could be a great resource for you. And we'll have an affiliate link down in the description if you want to order your ticket. We do get a small piece of that for full transparency, but we want to share that with you, and we'll be right back after this break. Public service announcement.
I'm Jackie.
And I'm Chris from the 7997 podcast, live from San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, and we are excited to partner with the Redefining Life Abroad Virtual Summit.
In just a few short weeks, August 10th and 11th, we are going to learn about handling our finances while living abroad.
And really the reason why you want to be there is because you're going to gain insights into working remotely
and even starting your own business.
We have expert speakers on all these different topics about finances and family that can help you better live your life abroad.
There are families, there are married couples, folks with children. Just come and learn what they've experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Even for ourselves, we had to make all kinds of adjustments with new financial obligations, working remotely,
while having family and friends and important matters back home. So don't miss out.
So make sure you go to the website on the screen to check out all the information about the Redefining Life Abroad Virtual Summit.
August 10th and the 11th. Be there or be square. You see the website on your screen. Go there and go ahead and sign up. You will not be sorry.
And we are back, guys. Thanks for joining us, sticking with us through us here. We know it's a tough conversation. There's going to be all kinds of madness in the comments, I'm sure. Y'all have at it. We always love what you guys say, good or bad. But to think about what actually is happening across the border here in Mexico that we are really coming to the realization of is that the current president, AMLO, is manipulating things in his favor. If I have the story correctly, he ran once and lost, thought he was basically shafted at the polls. So the same way Trump kind of tells that story of, I actually won the election, but he didn't win the election. So once he did actually win and get into office, he actually tried to defund the electoral board here in Mexico, INE. And that was sort of his way to hopefully, I guess, control the outcome of elections in the future. To say that, they don't have enough money to even run a fair and clear an election, and he could have some control over that in the future. So just setting himself up for a situation where he could possibly
control things. Puppet master.
On top of that, he also is giving the military sort of, and I may not have all this correct in the way that I'm kind of perceiving it, but the way I perceive it is he's giving the military jobs that the military generally doesn't do. So the military is
like
building,
hooking up with contracts, basically.
Right.
Okay.
And then that's the way we think about it in the U.S. The military is about defending the country, and that's what they're for. It may be a different, situation here in Mexico, but to me it seems odd that the military is building the Maya train or the military is building airports, that seems to be something that would generally be private contractors, private business. And to me, it feels like he may be setting up for, if I want to stay in power, I might want to have this military at my right arm and then be in my favor so that they can actually protect me if people come for me, you know. If a January 6th happens, you know, to come and overturn the government, I have my military here to protect me. So all these things, once you start looking at sort of the full picture and then being able to kind of handpick his successor, because in Mexico you get one term and it's 6 years rather than getting back-to-back terms in the U.S. for 4 and 4. So for, you know, if you think about it here, it's very rare that you get, you know, an 8-year term for a president and then the Democrats come right behind it. Like, it's not 8-year Democrat. Normally it flips. It's back and forth. But if you kind of have the same people in power, and I think they have a majority in their legislature as well, and then you even look at locally, there's a lot of mayors being killed, and I don't know how all these pieces connect. Some of you out there might have a better picture of that, but it just feels like we're in an environment, in a political situation where someone is trying to tip the favor in their own hand in as many ways as possible. And that feels very similar to what Donald Trump is attempting to do. Correct.
And when he says locally, he's not necessarily saying San Miguel.
Right. This is across the entire country of Mexico.
The down to Main Street.
Yeah.
Or Calle de Main.
Yeah. That's probably not the right way.
I'm just saying that's. But I also want to say too, just thinking about things as an immigrant, right, or expat. In the States, immigrants, we were talking about this recently, immigrants have a certain bubble of protection. Because I know that there are immigrant communities back in the States that actually have it easier than Native Americans. And I don't mean Native as in indigenous people. I mean Native as in, I was born there. I was raised there. And, you know, so whether it's the Asian community or the Middle Eastern community, there's some African communities, they are able to get programs to invest in their communities, to start up businesses, right? And I'm not privy to that.
It's also like when you come in as a legal immigrant, there are certain standards that you have to meet in order to get into the country. So even coming into Mexico as immigrants, you can't really come into the country if you're broke. Like, not legally, right? Like, you may go and overstay your visa and, you know, run around from the law, hope you don't get caught. But those that come in legally, and I think it's the same in the U.S., come in with some money. You're not coming in with nothing in your pocket. So when you talk about a community of people, whether it be, you know, Americans coming into Mexico or Turkish coming into America,
or even Korean, Americans Chinese, go to Canada, they go. Oh, that's true. I mean, I understand there are certain requirements. In order to meet that requirement, you have to come in with some amount of money. So when you come into a community and you have your own bubble and you actually have a little bit of money to deal with, and you actually don't pay attention or sometimes even care about the political situation, because as an immigrant status, a lot of that doesn't affect you in the same way. So, like, I think that's kind of where we were when we first came in, thinking about, oh, we're Americans, we know we're paying attention to stuff back home. We're not paying attention to the government that's actually happening here, unfortunately. And I think that is something that we should probably change our mindset on. Because even if that's a part of life,
you may not get hit with all the same things that the normal, you know, Mexican would, because they are, you know, citizens.
We're in a bubble.
We're in a bubble. But there are things that are going to affect you. And if that means, you know, the military comes to power and they're taking over territories and things are now military control rather than politically controlled.
We need to understand that.
We need to understand that, because that's going to have some effect on us. So all these things at some point are going to touch your life. So you need to be really aware of them and understand that even though you are an immigrant status in this country, or you may be immigrant status in another country, and you have a protective bubble around you to some extent, that bubble can be easily popped. If they feel like they want to pop that bubble.
So we need to be aware.
Be very aware.
Be aware. Eyes open, y'all.
That's it.
Head on the swivel.
And
go vote.
Absolutely.
Okay? It's not a decision. What they say? Lesser of two evils? No, it's not. No, it's not. And don't you cut that. I said that about 6 times. Go vote. vote for the national elections, and I please y'all, beg yous, go vote for the community things too. The sheriff races, the judge races, the ones that literally hit your zip code. Go vote. That is the wisest thing you can do, you know.
And I will
Please
say,
vote.
in contrast to that, if you're asking the question, who should you vote for? I don't know.
Right.
I can't help you in that. And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck right now because you don't like either option.
Right.
And like,
but doing nothing, y'all, is not an option. Let's don't. What my boy say, Bakari Sellers? He said the couch has so many votes. It don't put up no ads. It doesn't have a picket sign. It don't have the couch. Boy, that couch got so many votes. Mm-hmm. Don't let the couch win. It's just too important. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? People say vote your conscience and things of that nature. I don't know about all that. Go vote. For me, it is, I look at the character of a person. You know what I mean? What do you do when you go and hire a babysitter for your kids? What do you go do when you go try and find a job? You want to work in a place with management in a company that's going to take care of you. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to make sure you're leaving your children at a school or a daycare center that's safe where they're not going to be harmed. Mm-hmm. I look at my politicians the same way because I can't vote because somebody's not a Christian or because somebody's a Muslim or because they're black or because they're white or anything like that. What are you going to do for me as a person, for my community? Are you going to build it up or are you going to tear it down? And that's what I look at. And for me, one is a tearer downer, one is more of a builder upper. I'm going with the builder upper.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here and ask you a question within your metaphor.
Oh,
if you're looking for somebody to watch your kids, and you have a choice between somebody who's going to go sell your child for whatever amount of money they can get, and somebody who's going to lose your child because they don't have their faculties.
Stop it.
Where is your choice?
Help me, Lord.
And I think that's the choice a lot of people are dealing with right now.
That is so bad.
Is you know one will tear things down, and you know the other one might tear things down because he forgot where they was. That's all I'm saying. It's a tough choice right now. And to me, it's no choice. But you got to do the best you can with what you got.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Again, I'm asking for a third or fourth choice. Democratic Party, put somebody else up.
Yeah.
Why can't we run against the incumbent?
I know, right?
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I know. We're so polite in America.
I don't know about all that. And as always, every week, all we're trying to do is get closer to each other and closer to you.
See,
have we accomplished any of that?
We getting there.
I know we're definitely closer to y'all.
Oh, we working
I don't know
on
if we're closer to you just yet.
I don't know. We still working on it.
You might be working on my nerves.
My Lord.
Close enough to hit the nerves.
Almost 26 years. Yeah, it's nerve wracking over here, y'all. Yeah. But anyway, we'll tell y'all why.
Of course, this week we're talking about life in San Miguel, leaving America behind. I think one of the big things, you'll think about, maybe you won't think about, if you ever decide to kind of leave abroad or even move out of your hometown or go cross country or move to China, whatever you decide to do. There's going to be things that you can't find, can't have in your new location that you're going to miss. And there's some things that maybe you just won't miss at all.
Correct.
You're fine without having those things around.
Right, it's true.
I'm sure there's a big list on either side of those. So we're going to share a little bit of our list today about things that, we miss from back home that we wish we had here. And sometimes that means, making that thing happen yourself.
Right.
I can't find no good mac and cheese here.
Hey.
I'm going to have to make it myself.
Right.
So those type of things. So I think I'm going to start with you because I'm introing the show. So I have to throw it to you. There's no one else for me to throw it to.
Always gives it to me first. What are you volleying my way?
What is one of the things that you do not miss about being back in America versus being here?
The rat race is so mentally exhausting. just being in on that hamster wheel. You know, you've heard that before. Just that hamster wheel of, okay, the 9 to 5, no matter what time you clock in, that 8-hour day, and just having to, do that. But it's more than that. It's why. For, because everyone has to work, right? It doesn't matter where you live. Everyone has to work, whether it's, and this is I'm not demeaning anybody at all, but whether you are collecting trash, for recycling to get a couple of dollars or pesos or wherever you live to get your money so that you can, eat, or what have you, whatever it is that you do, you do need some money to go along with it so you can purchase things for your quality of life. But in America, you need to work so that you can afford the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house. You gotta have, because it's the American dream, right? You have to have the 2-car garage, or at least 2 cars in the driveway. You have to have a walk-in closet. You know what I mean? You have to. And so it's just having to do all of that to keep up that kind of lifestyle. And then even with just the bare minimum, I remember our electric bills used to be $150, $200, just to work to pay that kind of money for your utility.
Right, just to keep the lights on.
Just to keep the lights on. Yeah. That is exhausting. I don't miss that. I absolutely don't miss that. And to tag along with that are just the exorbitant prices of everything. You can go into a cafe, a restaurant here, a fruit stand, a fruit whatever, and a grocery store and grab a green juice. The expensive ones are $4. Back home, you're spending $10, $12 for a fresh pressed green juice. Why? You know what I mean? And then on the lower end, you're going to spend $1.50. Right. So I don't miss the rat race. Yeah. What about you? Or if you just want to comment on what I just said.
I'll say I'm still kind of in the rat race a little bit. I do have a 9 to 5.
You have the 9 to 5, yeah.
Granted, like to me, stepping out of that rat race happened when I got a remote job.
That's true.
So that I had that in America. I had that before I came here.
Not having to go into the traffic.
Not having to get in the car, commute every day, deal with all that. Yeah. Have to talk to people in the office all day.
He hated that, y'all. Ooh.
I'm an introvert, so I don't necessarily want to be.
There's some friends he did make,
right?
But
like
for the most part,
friends that I've met at work and have kept for years, and some that I could do without for sure.
Right, but for the most part, no water cooler for you.
Right. And like to me, the rat race is definitely an American ideal. I mean, it happens all over the world. Like you go to Japanese salarymen, the rat race is much worse than it is in America. Like it's bananas over there. So it's not necessarily just an American. Let me take that back. It's not just an American ideal.
It's just our experience.
Right. So like, I think even being in America, you can change your mindset to say, hey, I don't have to always be trying to upgrade and level up and get higher and spend more money. Because it seems like every time you get a promotion, you make a little bit more money, you get an influx of cash. Yeah. You find the new way to spend that money on something to kind of raise your level
garage, the quality
of life.
Oh, we got cable. I remember that's one of the first things we did when we first got married. Y'all, look, when we got a raise, we could get cable now.
Shows you how broke we are that we could not afford cable.
But it's real life, right? Yeah. This was before internet and we don't need cable. We could just, stream. But yeah, it's like, okay, we got bunny ears. We got PBS. But now we got us a raise. We can get cable. Yeah, right. It's different. But I want to just say something because you mentioned Japan. Yeah. America's not the only 9 to 5, go to your corporate job kind of a culture. However, it's still different because that is the pinnacle of life. You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes, just what I've researched and things like that. When you go across to other countries, they may work hard, they may work long hours, but like their companies have different rules. During COVID, they didn't fire anybody. People weren't let go. Those different cultures you're going to have in different countries, you're going to have different infrastructure. So they have good health insurance, right? So it's just different. It's different. So They may work long, they may work hard. They are definitely their children. They're about their education, but their system still will help the person.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Whereas our system's like get in or get out.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's survival of the fittest. You know what I mean? So there's a little difference too. Yeah.
And I think to piggyback off your statement, one of the things I don't miss at all is having to rely on a car.
Yeah.
Having to pay a car note, pay insurance, keep up the car. You definitely feel like, every few years you want to upgrade and get something a little bit nicer, a little bit better. It's hard to kind of settle in and say, hey, I'm going to keep this clunker for as long as I can.
15, yeah, right.
Run it into the ground.
Right.
Though I've done that plenty of times because I had to. I had no other choice.
Yeah.
But being here in this environment where you're in a city with taxis everywhere,
Ubers,
a lot of things are in walking distance. Ubers here are affordable. You're not paying $30, $40 to get across the city in an Uber. It just makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways. It takes a lot of mental load off of you not to have to worry about all the things that are connected with the car. And on the flip side of that, I do miss not having a car sometimes. Like there are times when, I want to go and get this couch for cheap from somebody. I can go strap it in the back of my, car or my truck or whatever. But so they had that option here.
Yeah. Or just being able to knock out your to-do list.
Yeah.
Being able to run your errands. I miss that, y'all. Oh, I miss that. And he won't let me drive. I just want to, like maybe on a monthly basis, rent a car. If y'all want me to be able to just rent a car on a monthly basis or maybe every quarter, can y'all put that in the comments, please? Be on my side. Go ahead.
She always said she want to do something until she does it, and then she don't want to do it no more.
That's why I said
so when we was back home, she'd be running to the passenger seat. She wasn't trying to drive nothing.
Man, if you don't get...
Thank you.
All I want is to be able to run those errands, Because I'm going to tell you with the Uber, even though they're so convenient and affordable, like the most expensive Uber rides here, it depends... obviously on the day or the time, whatever. It could be upwards of $5 or $6. But it makes you slow down, versus just jump in your car, turn the ignition, and you're out.
Yeah.
But I miss that.
So, there are times when, the Uber app don't want to act right.
Right.
Or the driver don't want to act right.
And he don't want to come. Like, are you coming? You text him.
Because sometimes they'll go, park a couple streets away and wait for you to cancel it because they know they're going to get paid regardless.
Man,
so, they can pretend like they're actually going to drive around and pick you up.
Help us, Lord. So anyway, I miss that.
Yeah.
Being able to jump in the car. But you are right. Because we talked about this. We really did. Like just last week, we were asking, like, if we would we consider going back? You know what I mean? And for right now, the answer is no. Because literally, we would have to pick up a car.
Start from scratch, right? Like
get housing.
Gotta get housing, gotta get a car.
Furniture, car, and it's so many thousands of dollars just to get back to just being in a regular living situation.
And it'd be awesome to live in a community that's walkable in the U.S., but like those communities are generally more expensive because you don't need a car.
Correct.
So it's sort of a lose-lose battle to try and go back to America at this point. We really have to be of a mindset of, I think if I were to go back, I might go to a small town instead of going to a big city. I may, find some way just to live as inexpensively as possible in the U.S.
Yeah. Move to Iowa.
Yeah. No. Like it sounds good, small town, small cost of living, but Iowa? I don't know. I need to be within proximity to a quality cheesesteak.
Oh my Lord!
Which is my next thing that I miss a lot.
Food,
is certain foods that we have back home.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like you can get a cheesesteak here,
but it ain't gonna be the same.
It ain't the same. It ain't tasting like back home anywhere close.
Nope.
Because the city has a lot of great restaurants, all different kinds. Like you can pretty much find some version of something you had back home that's like really obscure.
Right.
But it's not going to be the same quality. It's not the same thing. Like you went to a restaurant today and got little, burger sliders, and the burgers were the size of this microphone. Like it was sliders, like tiny, like meatballs smashed down. So like it's not the same thing.
It's not the same. It's like we were having a conversation today at the farmer's market about just missing grits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can you get polenta? Yes. Is it corn? Yes. Is it the same? No.
Polenta and grits are the exact same thing.
But
don't let them tell you it's not. That's from people who don't know how to fix the polenta to make it taste like grits.
Lord. As
It's the
yellow
exact same
corn,
grain.
it's not white corn.
It's yellow grits. They sell yellow grits.
They do, but all I'm saying is, especially when you get to the minutia of the details, you know, how it's the grind of it. Is it coarse or is it fine? And then you do end up liking your brand. You have your favorite brands, right? Like the Quaker. You know, you get the 5-minute quick grits, stuff like that. So it's not that it's...
You don't get 5-minute grits.
Oh, my Lord. Don't do that, guys.
Get the grits in the packet,
do
you
that.
pour the hot water in, the grits aren't cooked.
Oh, that's
They're
bad.
just hot
and crunchy. But anyway,
No.
so when I say they're different, I mean because they're not the same brand. It may be a different, like I say, texture, but it's still ground corn.
Yeah.
You still can eat it. You still can enjoy it. You know.
It still tastes exactly the same.
I'm the better cook. Just put that out there, and you're welcome. Move on. What's the next bullet point?
What is the thing that you actually miss from back home?
So most importantly, though, for real, what I miss most are the people. Yeah, I wish I could transport. You know who you are. I wish I could just transport those people right here to be with us. Yeah. So it's people first for sure. Church, and then smooth streets, food.
Oh, smooth. Thought you like messed up saying smoothies or something.
No, smooth streets.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, we lived in Salisbury, North Carolina before we came here, and it's an older town, and the streets aren't necessarily the smoothest streets in the world. There's some potholes in a lot of places, but it is
you
nothing
can't dodge.
like living here.
Can't dodge.
Can't dodge nothing here. You're gonna be riding on it. We were in the Uber the other day. This guy had a nice MG5. Like, I'm not familiar with MG brand. They don't really sell in America.
It was nice though.
But it was a really nice car, leather interior, candy red on the outside. And he went over a speed bump and that sucker bottomed out. Every other speed bump from then on, he went over at 0.5 miles an hour. Like, as slow as possible, braking on the way down the speed bump. Like, you're not tearing my car up no more. So I feel for the folks that drive around this city,
like,
particularly in a nice car that's low to the ground.
Oh my goodness, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was like that's when you get quiet. Like, we stopped talking. Like,
you'll see folks with big money here from like Mexico City or whatever driving their Lamborghini or their Corvette or their Porsche. I'm like, how do y'all even?
I don't even know how they
venture
do it.
into the city with those cars.
Brave.
You have enough money to get it fixed, I guess.
That's the point.
That's the point.
That is definitely the point. Yeah, you come here with they have a Suburban, some of them, but for real, the people, and I miss them so much. I really, really do. And I was talking to Chris, y'all, the other day. Recently, we intro and we always say we're trying to get close to you guys, get closer to each other. Lately I haven't been feeling close to you because there's just been irritants. You know what I mean? And they're not even major. They're not even groundbreaking. You know, earth shattering or anything. It's settling in, and I'm just like, oh, okay, we're not on vacation.
So I think we're actually gonna have that vacation conversation next time. But
stay tuned for
that. But like you're saying, as you get settled in here, and there's something that I say at work all the time, because I work in a company that's fully remote. But there's always these opportunities where they're like, oh, let's get everybody together and do stuff that we can't do, remotely.
Virtually,
and it's like, there really isn't very much that you can't do virtually that you can do in person. So if you want to spend time with family, you can pick up a phone, you can get on a video call. It's not the same as being able to hug him and kiss him on the cheek and, have that sort of interaction. But I will say there are a lot of things that you can do that people avoid doing or just don't think about doing that can actually bridge a lot of those gaps of missing family and missing people while
That's
you're
true.
here. So like you used to have the weekly call where your whole family would get on the call and everybody talk. And as schedules get busy, people get lost and get missing and kind of miss it.
And then birthdays, and then holidays, and then family emergencies. So sometimes we skip.
Right.
And once you skip, it seems like it's easier to skip the next one.
Yeah. So like the same way you have to be conscious when you're in person, like get in the car, go to the house, go hang with them. You have to be conscious when you're here.
Yeah.
Pick up a phone, get on the call, pick up your computer, your tablet, whatever.
Yeah.
And start that video call and just kind of interface and touch base with people that you need to touch base with.
Okay, interface.
Get in alignment. Get in alignment. All that good corporate speak. And as always, every week we are trying to get closer to each other and closer to you. I don't know if we ever explained that. So we always say it at the beginning of every video, but literally my wife has been like, why can't we do a business together? Why can't we do something together? You know how that go? You know how that go? Y'all fellas feel me. But like it was always, how do we find the right thing for us to do together? Because working with your spouse can be infuriating at times. It can be wonderful. It can be great. It can be all the things under the sun. It can be good and bad. Love-hate relationship. So how do you make sure you're actually doing something together that you both enjoy, that you both can be a part of, you can work on in accordance, and not be at each other's throat trying to figure something out? So this podcast was it for us. It was an opportunity for us to get
Work
a little
together.
bit closer, work together, and for me to satisfy the desires of my wife in that way. It wasn't supposed to sound sexual, but it just did.
Sound like that.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
So if you tuned in last week, we were talking about sort of things that we miss back home or things
And
that we
don't miss.
Which naturally led into the idea that, we've been here, almost 2 years. And for a while it did feel like a vacation. Because the money was flowing, the rent was low, the exchange rate was popping, and we're getting to know the city, going out, eating all the time, acting like we don't have no bills.
Right. It happens. It's true.
It does.
It's so true.
And then eventually you settle into everyday life and you start saying, hey, maybe I should not be wasting all this money.
Correct.
Maybe I can be a better steward over my money, as well as like I've seen a lot of the big things that I wanted to see here when I first got here that you're excited about. So now it's really about finding sort of those little small treats here and there, and not necessarily having to go to 15 different restaurants that you saw on the YouTube video.
Right.
That was and said it was nice.
Right.
So now we're kind of settled in a little bit, and the honeymoon's over. So like.
Gone.
For you, like, what has been, some of the hallmarks of that change from, living as in this is an adventure and a vacation to this is just home and this is everyday life?
Yeah. So, not to sound silly, but we've told y'all about the cobblestone here. Well, I am now used to it. So, when we first moved here, I needed Dramamine. Remember? I would not leave the house without a bottle of Dramamine for motion sickness. And especially because we would go out, we're going to be out hanging, you're going to go eat, and then of course we got to jump in a taxi or Uber and come on home. And then shaking all and going everywhere. And
it was like the episode of The Cosby Show when Bill Cosby had the little kids on his knees.
Oh, yeah.
And he's bumping them up and down and they all falling to the side. And that's what it feels like
You're
riding
telling
in a
your
taxi
age.
in
Oh
San
my
Miguel
gosh,
sometimes.
right? And then you have a belly full of tacos and horchata, and it is like, I'm sick. So, but no more. So I don't need Dramamine anymore. I now am able to, this is San Miguel specific, y'all, right? So I am now able to do a lot more looking and observing. Right, while we're walking, because I've gotten used to the cadence of the stones and the fluctuations of the sidewalks. So I'm able to do a lot more sightseeing and without the fear of impending death.
Right.
Okay.
That's something I don't think people fully realize, is that when the streets are so dangerous to walk on, your vision is here most of the time. You're down, you're trying to make sure I don't miss a step, I don't step in that pothole, I don't step in an uneven brick or cobblestone.
Yeah.
And there's so much that's kind of up in the city that you'll just miss out on if you're worrying about trying not to kill yourself.
Right.
So still every day, like I walk around and, you know, you get more used to it. You're not as keyed in on the ground as much. And you start to look up in places where you didn't look up before. Then you're like, oh man, that house is actually kind of nice.
Really beautiful.
Oh, there's a rooftop restaurant up there. I didn't even realize that was there. Like there's still this sense of discovery even after a couple years because you're literally just looking up now instead of watching.
Our eyes have been open. Yeah.
So that's another like small detail that you don't really think about on an everyday basis, but like it affects the way that you live when you have to think about where you're stepping in.
Right.
All the time.
Literally, where are you going? Let's see. What else? Getting just that rhythm. My Spanish is getting a little bit better. And not being afraid of speaking it.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. I'm stumbling through, but they're helping me. And there are more things. Like the vacation is over. I said it to you the other day. So we haven't been getting closer sometimes because the vacation is over. And I'm realizing I ain't got my buddies. I don't have my regular life anymore. And we have friends here, but everyone is still busy, you know, which is actually there are pros and cons to that, right? The pros are that there are younger people here. So it's not just the expat retired community or retired expat community. It's now we're still a working group of people.
Digital nomads here that are our age and still, you know, working 9 to 5.
Middle-aged people still working. We know artists, like even our parents, you know, so they're
people
still working businesses,
here,
right? Or children, so they have the grind of, you know, doing school and making sure kids are in bed and stuff like that. So we aren't retired, and neither is our village.
Right.
So I'm sitting around. I'm now working on my business, macaroni and cheese. I'm now adding Cajun chicken gumbo as probably gonna be more like a weekly special. You know, so I'm in the kitchen cooking and in grocery stores selling and things, but there's still more time, and so it's like I am used to taking care of people. And my husband's the worst person to take care of because he's like, no, I don't need it.
I'm a grown man.
I don't want it.
I don't need it.
And it's not even about being grown. It's not even about all of that. I love taking care of people. And
I mean, I offered to let her cook me dinner 7 days a week, but she turned down that. Like, if you like to take care of people, why is that an issue? You should be like, oh, wow, that's great. You're so sweet and, you know, unselfish to let me do that for you all the time.
And then I also would have my volunteer, so, you know, with church activities and meetings and greetings and, you know, feeding the homeless. And so now I'm going to have to shift and go, that really is not coming back in that specific way. But I am going to now have to go out and seek a good church home, you know, and seek out those opportunities. So I do see, you know, that there are some calls for help with like a women's shelter or, you know, orphanage and things like that. So I'm going to have to put in good proxies so that I'm able to give back and spend my time in that's helpful to others and not use that time to sit and sulk and go, I miss, you know, sister so-and-so, I miss brother so-and-so, I miss and I do, but I still have time to do other things to help other people.
And I think it all kind of was a perfect storm of, you know, our youngest son leaving the house, us being empty nesters. You're not having to work a 9 to 5. You kind of have your own business. You can make your own hours. So you kind of, and, you know, obviously leaving all the friends and church family that you have back home that you don't necessarily get to interact in the same way.
And going checking on mom and, you know, being there with her. So a lot just changed.
Right, you just lost a lot of the things that you were, in some ways, like, forced to get into, right? Like, not necessarily you didn't want to do them, but they were just things that you had to take care of.
Part of my responsibilities.
Right, so, like, when you get here, you don't have those things anymore. Now you're like, oh, I have all this free time. Let me go bother Chris. And Chris don't want to be bothered all the time.
He
you know, especially when, you know, I'm working a 9 to 5 and she's not, and this is a day when she ain't really got nothing to do, and she want to go be all, you know, fiddle in your ear and stuff. I'm trying to work right now.
I don't do that while you working.
You do it all day long.
He's lying.
Because I'll be on the couch watching TV and working at the same time.
So then
you know how remote work does. You gotta multitask, you know what I'm saying?
Ain't working.
It might be a little laundry going on, there's sweeping the floor for a minute while I'm thinking. Then I get back on the computer.
He has his laptop on his lap, and he's just moving his finger on the mouse pad, just making
Sometimes that motion just helps you think. You gotta think a little bit. It's just, you gotta get the brain working. You gotta distract the brain.
Oh, my Lord.
So anyway.
And I'm not trying to annoy you, but now I really need to understand that you cannot fill some voids.
Right.
I'm going to have to take my blinders off and understand that, okay, it's time now that I build that I guess that extra ring.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You haven't taken the time to build that life. Honestly, you haven't built that life here just yet.
Yeah.
You built up a lot of the foundation of it. But now it's time to stretch out.
Yeah, and I go to that outer circle.
Yeah.
Like literally, because I'm sure, like if we had an emergency, I know we have 5 people now that we can call, and like we have an emergency help, and they would stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Or stop, drop, and send. Because sometimes, like people have gotten sick. We've gotten sick, and my mother-in-law has sent over a Uber
with some soup,
with soup, and groceries from the grocery store. So sometimes it's not necessarily someone's coming here, but you just get what you need, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's time to build that outer ring, or that next layer of what my life, what I want my life to be.
Yeah. And I would say for me that transition from vacation to real life.
When did that happen?
I don't know. I think it's still in process, but part of it is we came down here with a specific purpose, right? And that purpose was to come down here, save money, build up, a nest egg, pay down debt, just really get better financially. And when we first come down here, we weren't doing any of that really.
No, we weren't
the way we
focused
were
on
supposed to be. We were, again, hopping around town, going to restaurants, spending money we didn't need to spend. So
putting money on homes that was too expensive. We didn't really need to live in that house. So yeah.
So now it's like a change of the mindset to say, okay, because when you come down here, you have this idea of you can get so much more for your money. So you're a lot more apt to spend more than you probably should. So for me, it's really a mindset change of let's get the money under control. Let's be more frugal. Let's make sure that we're really working towards the goal that we came here for, so that we're not just down here having fun and throwing money in the air because hey, we can make more and do more in Mexico because we have all this money that stretches. Like, okay, that's great, but let's actually take care of the business we're supposed to be taking care of first.
Right.
And then once we got all the debt paid off and the finances set up, then we can go have some fun and act a fool.
Keep the main thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's really been the big thing for me about sort of getting out of the vacation life is making sure that we are better stewards over our money and taking care of the business we need to take care of. So another way I think we are sort of getting accustomed to life here is that we're no longer like the newbies, right? Like we've been here long enough where if somebody asks, hey, where's this place? Where's this thing? What's the best place to do? What's the best place to go? We actually have answers for that.
We're resources.
We know where stuff is.
We're seasoned.
We go out in the street and folks walk up to us because they see us on YouTube.
And hey, y'all.
Hello, how are you doing? And they come and they ask us questions, and when we see new people here, we're really trying to reach out and give them little nuggets and things to kind of help them through, because we know we've been in that same spot before. So really just, I think, being, representatives of the community in some extent, to some small way, to those who are kind of new here, because as you go around town, you constantly see new people all the time.
New faces,
It's a very transient city in that way, of people coming down to visit, coming for vacation, or they want to say, hey, I'm thinking about moving to San Miguel,
Scouting
come
trips.
down and scout. So we run into a lot of people, all shapes and sizes, ages, colors, and I think we're able to really contribute to people when they come down here more so than we could before, where we were just the newbies and didn't know nothing else like nobody else did. So that's been a big thing for us. And I think even you coming down and starting a business, right? Like that's something that kind of you don't go on vacation and start a business. You kind of have to be
Nope.
settled into an actual life.
Right.
But talk a little bit about, you know,
Yeah.
sort of what that journey was for you to kind of really get the business started down here.
Yeah, well, I was kindly reminded that I was not on vacation or retired yet.
No free ride.
So I had to earn my dinner and get some
Rent's
pesos
due.
going. And being an immigrant, you know, I'm realizing that sometimes you can't use, let's just maybe, you know, a certain set of skills. I'll keep it like that. There's a certain set of skills that aren't helpful right now.
Yeah.
But you have another set of skills, and so I'm having to fall back on those, which is great. Fall back or stand on, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So I'm able to now use my culinary you know, acumen to now earn some pesos. So it's been a blessing. You guys have, or the American locals here, you know, they just want to taste the home, you know, just to compliment the food that's here and just add to, right? And so just being able to make the food, I had to learn the new ingredients, you know. I mean, just something really simple. You don't even think about, like the heavy whipping cream is different here. It's thicker.
Heavy.
What? It is thicker, is heavier,
And it is hard to
richer.
find sharp cheddar cheese.
It's hard to find sharp
For a
cheddar
culture
cheese.
that loves spice and
Yeah, something like
sharp
strong.
flavors,
Yeah, right.
acidity.
Yeah.
I would think sharp cheddar cheese would be the thing they go for.
It'd be a thing, but it's not.
They're not on that sharp.
And they're very mild cheeses, and they tend to be like very light and white.
Yeah.
Or creamy in texture, right? But
I
white,
think they're
like,
more of a foil to all the spices rather than being the thing that kind
that's
of
true.
spikes out.
Yeah,
the
like a
flavor.
mellowing out, right?
Yeah.
So I had to adapt my recipe with the Mexican ingredients, but then I had to get my courage to go. Okay, all right, Jackie Gale. Now you need to go out into the marketplace, because the thing is, it's more than just people on vacation. It's more than just Americans and, you know, Canadians. You need to now open up your market and go, you know, to the masses, right? And so just being able to go in and knock on those doors, give the samples, and just ask, how can my product fit here, or show them how it can fit here, and, you know, and not back down from your pricing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's a value. You got to evaluate yourself, your time, your product, and knock, like I said, knock on those doors, and use a translator if you need to. Use Google Translate.
Yep.
But look, what we say, we're not on vacation anymore. So now it's not pesos for a nice dinner out. It's pesos for rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or to pay off that debt. So it's real deal.
Yeah.
It's real deal.
And I think to touch on something you said earlier of the idea of like you have skills down here that you can't necessarily use. And I think, you know, a lot of us probably heard a story of like going back in the U.S. and, you know, you talk to people that have come over as immigrants, and, you know, back home in my country, I was a lawyer. I was a lawyer.
Yep.
Here, I may own the convenience store.
Yep.
There's certain
Taxi driver,
skills
right?
and tools that you have that, because you're not a citizen of the country, because you're not, you don't have a particular license or educated in a particular way,
Or maybe missing out on the language piece.
on the language piece.
Yeah.
There's certain things that you just can't maximize here.
Yep.
So part of it here is like, okay, I'm a designer, I have design skills, but the way Mexican culture works is like, they're not going to let you take a job from Mexican. If there's a qualified Mexican that can do that job, you're not getting the job.
Right.
So it's a little different than it is in the U.S., where it's really more open to most people. You know, if you have the skill set, you can get into it, or if you have the licensure or the resources or whatever to get into it. But here, it's a lot more difficult, where you may have the skill set that you had in the U.S., but here it just doesn't translate because you may not speak the language, or you may not be first in line to get a job. It may be, we got to look at these other 50 people first before we can even look at you.
Yeah.
So that's something always to think about. You know, you think you have some skills that you can kind of lean back on when you get here, and you may not be able to kind of use those skills. Like, you can't just go anywhere and be a lawyer or a doctor.
Right.
Like, there's certain qualifications you have to have. That's specific to each country, specific to each state and city as well.
Right.
So all that stuff is things you have to think about when you get over here, and think that, you know, maybe I want to do something in my own lane and my own skill set. You may not actually have that option in the same way.
Right. You may have to carve out something or just pivot. Right? You may have to pivot. So like mom, you know, she's a beautiful hat maker, but then she's like, okay, but you know what? Mexicans love their housewares. So now she's making beautiful handmade pillow covers, you know, and things for the home. So it's like, okay, you may not get my hat, you know, but I got something else for you, you know, something different. So it's just playtime is over.
Yeah, I mean, marketing 101, if you got a product, you got to make sure it fits the place where you are and the audience you're targeting to. So if you have a new audience here, you better learn how to use whatever skills you have to apply to that audience.
You better say it, because they have their own set of problems and challenges. So solve their problems, right? Help them with their challenges, and then you might be able to be successful. What y'all don't know behind the scenes is this dude is quiet. Okay, I have to poke him and you know, check his eyes and check his pulse, make sure he's still alive. So when he gets to talking, I just sit back and enjoy it.
I talk when I have something important to say. Otherwise, why are you talking?
Well, because talking is fun.
Anyway, since you've begun the episode, what are we speaking about this week?
The rainy season. Lluvia has come.
But I thought weather was perfect, 80 degrees, no matter what time of year it was in San Miguel. I thought it was perpetual spring.
Well, it rains in the springtime.
It does rain in the springtime, doesn't it?
You're welcome.
Yeah. Technically, the rainy season is only about 4 or 5 months between June and September. So the rest of the year, you literally get no rain at all. Like, you might get a lucky drizzle half in a day. Other than that, you get
zero rain.
Nada. Zero. Zilch. This is the desert, and when it's time not to rain, it does not rain.
No. And nice to, the highs will be like 80, anywhere between like 80 and 90. And then the evenings, it just cools out to like 55, 60. Yeah. So cute in the daytime and wear a cute little sweater and jacket in the evening. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then somewhere around April, May, June, it gets hot. And that's basically the hottest time of the year. This year was hotter than normal. We had a really good heat wave. We get, up into almost 100 some days.
Which is abnormal now.
Which is abnormal. Usually
Climate
get
change,
that hot.
right.
It'll get into the 90s, but it wouldn't necessarily get up to 100. So that was pretty abnormal. So, like, once you get to that time of year, like, everyone, even when it's not super duper hot, everyone is kind of waiting with bated breath for the rain to come.
Olivia? Oh,
right. You're watching the skies, you're waiting, you're asking the weatherman, when does the rain come?
Right.
Because it's hot, and you're walking around town, and you're sweltering, and most places here don't have air conditioning because you honestly don't need it most of the year.
That's true.
But for that 1 month, month and a half, you know, it would be really nice to have if you don't have it. Personally, we have it in like our bedroom, and that's the only place we have it. So our electric bill that we just got recently was much, much higher than normal.
Because we were running $55 a month?
Yeah. So $55 a month as opposed to $10 to $20 a month.
Right.
So, it's not necessarily, merit energy prices, obviously, because we're not running AC constantly all day.
In a whole house, right?
In a whole house.
Thank the Lord.
But, it's enough for us to be too high, for sure. So once that rain does finally come, and I think one of the ways that just traditionally they've gotten the rain to come is they literally have festivals and traditions before the rain comes. So like there's a festival called the Festival of Santa Cruz, which is sort of a Catholic festival as well as an indigenous one, where they're actually praying for good rain, they're praying for a good harvest. They're up on the hill in a neighborhood called Valle de Maíz. They're setting off fireworks. And it really lasts for an entire week, right at the end of May. So that's sort of like the traditional call for, hey, let's get some rain going. It's about time.
They're summoning the gods.
They're popping off fireworks into the sky in the hopes that it triggers the clouds to drop some rain.
And we don't know scientifically if that's how it really works, but they're part of their tradition.
You can load the clouds with salt to make it actually rain if there's enough water in the clouds.
I've heard,
I don't know if that's what they're actually trying to do.
We're not even going to go, we ain't going to go there. But it reminds me, though, of the American indigenous people, how they used to say they would do a rain dance.
Right.
That's so interesting. I never
They're all
thought
the
of
same
that.
people.
They are.
There comes a time of year when you expect that rain to come, you want it to come, and like, let's get a party going.
Yeah.
It don't take nothing for Mexicans to start partying for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it gets the rain to come, then all the better. And I think at the end of that week, it actually did get some rain. It wasn't like really the fully rainy season coming on, but we did get a little bit of rain. So I'll say it works.
I don't subscribe to dancing. Well, guess what? They had the same festival last year. It ain't rain. There was a drought last year. It rained like twice.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't subscribe to dancing. I do subscribe to maybe partitioning the Lord, God of heaven, who made the heavens and the earth.
Well, first of all,
that's what I subscribe to.
And y'all are praying. Part of that worshiping and speaking to God is y'all get up and y'all shout and y'all dance.
I didn't discredit that. I'm just saying.
It sounds like you're being a hater.
Put in the comments if y'all heard me discredit anybody.
That's what I heard.
It was because you don't listen. But what I'm saying is you can partition or make a petition. You can make a petition, but that doesn't mean your request is going to be
doesn't
granted.
mean your prayers will be answered.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And definitely not how you want it and when you want it.
Right.
Because guess what? The Lord works when He wants to. He does what He wants to do. And also we are impacting the world.
Right.
Climate change is real. You know what I'm saying? So there it is. Sorry, guys.
We can have an impact on climate change. Why can't we have an impact on the rain?
Well, we can. I understand that.
See?
Some places are getting too much rain. Look, there's some places in Canada they were having like 80 and 90 degree weather. They're like, oh my God. You know what I mean? So it's a thing.
Yeah.
Move on.
So rain here is a little bit different from where we were in North Carolina. We technically have a rainy season in North Carolina, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't think we really think about it that way because it does kind of rain year round.
Literally June, July, August. Those are super hot,
yeah,
right?
When the summertime comes around, we get these pop-up thunderstorms that are like extremely powerful, extremely volatile.
Hail.
It rains super hard.
Yep.
Might last for an hour. And then it stops. You'll be driving down the highway, complete whiteout conditions, can't see nothing.
Got to pull over or drive
on the
10 miles an
motorcycle be
hour.
up under the bridge
Yep.
waiting. But then when it stops raining, it doesn't cool nothing off.
It's still hot
It
as
just gets
blazes. Yeah. Humider. I'm going to drink my tea while he's fixed that.
So in contrast here, like when the rainy season comes, it is a relief. The temperatures come down. All that 100 degrees, 90 degrees is pretty much gone.
That's true.
You're getting that mid-80s. It'll cool down.
And it's
even
like
cooler at
really
night.
fresh.
And it's fresh and it's refreshing.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But like
Back
in North
home.
Carolina, that rain was a nuisance.
Right.
It just made stuff worse. Like you're expecting rain, a whole bunch of water to drop to actually cool some things off. But it doesn't do that at all.
That's so true. Like the rain would fall and then you could actually see on the turf or the astroturf or the street, you would see it actually smoking. It's just evaporating.
You see the steam coming up. It's like a sauna, right?
And going right back up. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But it floods here.
It very much so, and like
y'all gotta understand that.
Part of the problem is everything here is built out of concrete, stone, rock. The streets, the buildings, so like nothing absorbs the water. And we're in the desert, so it's not a whole lot of vegetation, it's not a whole lot of grass. And they're building up the town a lot. So within the city itself, it's on the side of a mountain, so any water that's up top gets pushed down to the bottom.
Yep.
If you live in the bottom of the city, like you're just used to things flooding out.
Yeah.
My mother lives down close to the bottom of the city, and she took some pictures outside of her door, and it's like literally a river rolling through by her front door.
A river runs through it.
That much water. And that's like a normal rainstorm. That's not like anything crazy. It's not a hurricane.
Yeah, that's true. No,
That's
hurricane is just thunderstorm.
When it rains, all that water gathers and runs downhill into the bottom of the city.
Yep.
So like that kind of leads into sort of the construction of homes here, which is a little bit different than back home.
The rooftops, how they have the little holes and the little
rooftops have little spouts to kind of move the water off the roof. everything's made out of concrete. All the flooring in here is all tile. You'll see stone. You'll see polished concrete. You will not see carpet.
That's so true.
You will not see hardwood floors, rarely. Maybe some more high-end places might throw some hardwood in there. So like Mexicans' attitude towards water inside the house is a little different than ours. You know, if you're back home and there's water getting in the house,
You're freaking
you
out.
got wood, you got drywall, you got carpet, all that stuff gets ruined by the water.
Right.
Here you got stone and tile, you just sweep it on out.
Sweep
the
it
door.
out, wipe it up, dry it off.
It's all good.
Yeah. Bienvenidos.
So like we have a couple, like a leak by our patio door that ended up sealing up. There was water coming in there. There's a leak up in the window upstairs. You had to seal that up as well. But when the water came in, like at first you're kind of like, oh man, there's water getting in.
It was like,
oh my
yikes.
God. Like,
But then it's like, it's not damaging
it's not hurting
anything.
nothing.
Right.
Get the mop out, mop it up. It's all good.
Like literally, yeah.
Nothing gets hurt.
No,
Like,
that's so
we have
true.
a little area rug. You know, that might get wet. But if an area rug gets wet, you pick it up, you know, squeeze it out. It's all
Right.
good. It's not a problem. So, you know, there's a very different attitude towards, I think, the rain, the flooding, the water, because you're just kind of used to it. You know, I guess if you in the U.S. you live in a flood zone, you expect the flood to come.
That is correct.
You've made preparations for it. Your house is probably prepared for it in some way.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. You know, there's parts of the city that's going to flood
Yep.
like clockwork.
And parts that aren't.
Okay, so what?
Yeah.
That's another Tuesday.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. But the funny thing is, because of the communal nature of the people with nature,
Yeah.
you hit a good point. They actually are welcoming it. You know, like here, I may do a treat for you guys one day and just take you on a tour so you can see how they treat nature here. Like they won't cut down the trees if they can help it. So in the middle of the street, you can literally be in the Uber
Yeah.
and turn down the street and you're like, is that a tree in the middle
Middle of the street.
of the street? And as long as that car can get around, they didn't cut it. They didn't cut it down. Or you can be walking down the street and then there'll be branches, right? They build walls or gates around
Around the tree.
and they've even built houses with tree. So what I'm saying is they appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's not a nuisance.
Well, I mean, they have to, because if you're in the desert, every bit of water is important. If you're in the desert, every tree is important, because you need all of that oxygen to soak up all this, you know, hot air we're all blowing around all the time. So all those things are important, and they make sure to put things in place to, you know, protect it. Like by law, I think if you're able to actually cut down a tree, you got to plant 3 in place of it.
Yeah.
So like there's laws in place to protect the trees that are here. Because there's so few of them, obviously, in the desert.
Yeah.
So, you know, something else about the rain here, I think, you know, when the rain season first came, it was really came in with the hurricane. I think hurricane, I'm not sure if it was Burl or the one before it.
Oh, you mean this year?
This year,
Okay,
yeah. We would get, you know, we're in the center of the country, so we really don't get heavy hit from the hurricane, but we got sort of the outer bands of it. So we get sort of this, you know, ongoing on and off rain all day long, which isn't typically the way that it rains here.
Right.
So the last couple of years we've been here, it's been almost like clockwork. Late afternoon, the clouds will kind of roll in. You'll get hit with some rain. Sometimes you'll get it overnight, so you might get sort of an overnight storm that kind of goes all night long.
And don't forget about that thunder and lightning.
The thunder and lightning is different.
Were you on top of a mountain? What?
I've never lived this high. Like this
What?
city is higher than Denver, Colorado in elevation. So you are literally up in the clouds.
What?
You know, we go to our rooftop, we can look over the whole city, and we can see at the top of the mountains, like, I can see the gray clouds. I can see it raining on the other side of the city, but it's not even raining here. It's so crazy.
Man.
You're just up so high that, you know, sometimes the rain hits you and sometimes it doesn't.
But that thunder
But the thunder,
and that lightning.
it feels like the thunder is in the house. It's
Man.
so close. The first time we heard it, it like made us jump. It scared us. Like I usually don't jump at thunder. And even at the really strong thunderstorms you get in North Carolina, like, those are really powerful. They don't make me jump. But here, it's like, wait a minute. Am I in the thunder?
What?
Is it here with me right now?
I heard my grandma, you set it down and let the Lord do his work.
Turn them lights off. Unplug everything. Don't get in the shower.
And for the record, we should have unplugged.
Yeah. We had a power outage and it killed our projector that we had. think it may have fried one of my Wi-Fi routers too a little bit. It doesn't seem like it's working as good as it
Yeah,
used to.
man. We down to one TV, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all pray for us. Put in the comments if y'all can survive with just one TV.
You know, buy us a coffee or stack up enough coffee so we can get a TV, right? We need TV in the bedroom, you know how us spoiled Americans
Oh,
get.
my Lord. But you were saying, though, that the rain is cyclical, right?
It's cyclical, very much so. You get it sort of at the same time every
Little
day.
rhythm,
so like you
yeah.
have to kind of plan your day around it.
Hit
So like
the
we do
streets
our
early.
laundry. We like to hang it outside because we have no. Well, I say we like to. We
for
have
the
to.
record, we don't have a dryer. But we don't miss it.
No. So like you got to get up and wash clothes in the morning. Make sure you get up on the line enough time to kind of get everything dry before the rain comes through. Go out and get your errands done in the morning and the early afternoon before the rain comes.
Yep, run around.
Because once the rain comes, like ain't nobody out in them streets.
Right.
Everything clears out.
Yep, that's
the
so
city
true.
is a ghost town because you get swept up in one of them rapids coming down the mountain.
No, seriously.
You might get swept down the street.
Yep.
Though, like some people do like to go out and kind of venture into it. You know, I always say like if I was a kid and I grew up in this, like I would probably have some sort of makeshift raft, an inner tube, just to roll down the street to the city. You know, it'd have to be
Rowing your
enormous
boat.
fun. I'm a little too old for that now.
Gosh, but it's serious though, cause I know baby girl got stuck, so they hanging out, and that's the thing. It's cyclical, right? So you know in the evenings,
Baby girl is who?
Taylor.
Okay.
So she's hanging out, getting her last rounds before she leaves out of town, and you know, next thing you know, she's texting, "Hey, can we crash at somebody's house? Is anybody within a safe walking distance? Because Ubers are no longer running."
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a thing.
Because they can't drive through the
They
river.
can't drive through the water.
Especially in the little cars they got here. I mean, it's a small town, tight street, so like everybody gets sort of a Chevy Aveo, a Nissan Sentra is probably like one of the biggest cars you see here. One time I got lucky and got an Uber that was an SUV, which was like riding in luxury.
Didn't that feel good?
It felt so good.
Oh, the hams and the yams and
Yeah.
the hips and the dips.
Like the seat wasn't touching the front of my knees. You know what I mean? And
It
like,
was
I'm
so
not tall. I'm like 5'7" on a good day when my hunchback is straightened out. You know, but in them cars,
Oh man.
tightly squeezed in.
Man, but I'm gonna say this though, San Miguel's rainy season is beautiful.
It is very beautiful.
It really is. For the reasons you said it, because even just seeing the pictures and the videos everyone posting, it's pretty cool. See all the rapids, you know, flowing down the cobblestone streets. There's a romance to it, I guess. And then, of course, we have beautiful scenery. So the folks who do venture out, who is it? Ian, one of the best photographers here.
Ian Clement.
Oh my Lord! I mean, when the pictures come back, it's just so amazing. And because of how we're situated, just being able to see the clouds, to be able to see the like one night we were up on the rooftop. Remember on the terraza? And it was a twin rainbow. So the beauty and how it cools things off. I like the rainy season here better for sure than back home.
Yeah.
I'll take it here over there any day.
And even there's a spot in the Yardine where the Yardine is kind of placed sort of middle ways in the city. So there's city that's above it and there's also city that's below it. So it really becomes a conduit for sort of the river running through it. And there's one section where there's like a staircase and everybody gets pictures of the rain coming down the staircase. It looks like a little waterfall.
Yeah.
One woman was actually laying in the middle of the staircase with the water just rushing over top of her, which I know was probably super fun, super cold, I'm sure.
Right.
So like there's a beauty in sort of this rain that comes in. It really is, I think, a time of year that maybe the tourism guide won't tell you to come this time of year. Maybe people will say, hey, come when the rainy season is off. But like to me, I think it's probably one of the better times of the year that a lot of people may miss out on because they're here, you know, later in the year, maybe October, November, December, when all sort of the holidays kind of come around, the Mexican holidays as well as the U.S. holidays. And that's really like the busy season.
But it is
I think a lot of
beautiful.
people miss out on that part of San Miguel of, you know, just enjoying the waterworks that kind of come through.
Yeah, get rained in and just chill, have some good to eat. It's fun.
It's fun.
It is
Absolutely.
fun.
This week we're talking about, I guess, sort of some of our experiences as well as some of the things that we did a little bit of research on and learned about because we don't know everything about everything, although we might want to sound like we do sometimes. the differences between indigenous folks in the U.S. versus indigenous folks in Mexico. Because essentially they're all sort of interconnected. They're all sort of the same people. Before the borders were there, they had some connection between them. But I think the experiences between the two were probably similar between U.S. and Mexico historically. But I think U.S. was a little bit more bloodthirsty when it came to Native Americans.
No.
You don't say?
No.
On that note, I think one of the first things you may notice here, as opposed to back in the U.S., it is very difficult to find a Native American in the U.S. Unless you're near a reservation somewhere, if you're in, you know, Oklahoma, South Dakota. Like I grew up in Maryland, and I was fortunate that we did have one Native American family there. But that's the only one I've ever known or ever seen in my 45 years of living. Other than, we were in an airport somewhere recently.
Saw one.
I think we were in Mexico at the airport.
But be clear, we are 45 years old, and we can count on one hand how many times we've seen an indigenous person in the States.
Whereas here, I think
everywhere
you can see it in the face of the people all the time.
What you consider to look like Mexican, they're indigenous.
Right. So, like, you know, some of our friends have sort of the term white skin versus Mexican, which is, you know, Mexicans with more of the European,
the Spaniards,
genetic,
right?
Spaniards kind of coming over, and all kinds of other European genetics. Whereas there's still a lot of the population that just has sort of that pure
indigenous,
Aztec, Mayan, Yucatan Peninsula blood, basically. So, you know, I think I've heard somebody say, like, if you see them, you know, under 5 feet with dark brown skin, like, they're probably indigenous at the end of the day. And it kind of trickles over, I think, into a lot of the festivals we have here. We're in San Miguel, in a tourist city. So there's sort of always something going on. There's always a festival. And, like, Catholic Church is really big here, so there's things that are tied in with the Catholic Church. But there's always an indigenous aspect to it. Like, you don't get them split apart. They're always connected to each other. So it becomes really apparent when you're here that, you know, the treatment is a little different between the two countries. They aren't sort of shunned and put into a corner. They aren't herded off to reservations. They aren't, you know, killed in a multitude of ways.
The colonizers they're definitely different. And you can say that even if you know, look at it from a black and white perspective, the colonizers in America was totally different. Africans received different treatment versus like in the Caribbean. You know what I mean? And then you can go island to island. There was just different treatments, you know. But yeah, they definitely they are here. And they are not hidden, and I love it. And that's something that I noticed and realized. It took me a while because we came over, you know, Americans, and we had this American attitude, you know, the Mexicans, you know, the Mexicans or whatever. And then I just started going to the festivals, or maybe we'll see the, you know, online posts and things like that. And it's like, wait a minute, they aren't Mexicans. Those are the indigenous people.
They're Americans.
They belong here. Like, these are the first people. And I'm like, oh my, like, once I saw that, not just because they're beautiful, and they are, not just because of the headdresses and the adornments, you know, and the jaguar heads, they're beautiful, yes, but understanding that they belong here. Like, it really hit me in my heart. It hit me. I really had to process that. Like, oh my God, they don't need to go across a border. Like, this is their home. You know what I mean? It really, it touched me in such a way.
Right. And when I saw sort of the feathered headdresses and the way they dressed and the clothing, and like when I saw it, it threw me off at first because I kind of I think I didn't expect for native indigenous people in Mexico to look so similar to those back in Native America, in North America. I'm sorry, the United States.
The U.S., right, because it's still North America,
it's
right?
Still North America.
Right. Even the face painting.
Right. There's a lot of things that are very similar between the two.
Drums.
And it threw me off, and I'm like, wait a minute.
They are related.
They're a lot closer related than I really thought about. Because
we think about them as Mexicans. You just, they Mexican.
And also think about sort of Aztecs and Mayans Cheyennes and Olmecs and think about those cultures being remarkably
Extinct
different
or
from,
different.
you know, Cherokee tribes and all these others. And like, there's a lot more similarity than there probably is difference between the two. And there's probably a lot more similarity in the way they were treated than there is difference between the two as well, by history, in their particular countries. So today I'm going to read some facts off my phone because I don't want to mess these things up, and I don't know all these things. I'm looking up things and learning like everyone else. So if we kind of look at the history of Native Americans in the U.S., you know, at least 6 presidents supported legislation that diminished, if not eliminated, tribal control over their own land, denied them health care. There was the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which initiated a removal of tribes from a lot of regions from west of the Mississippi. There are tons of military battles against the U.S. that you know, that natives really didn't win, and they were forced even deeper into poverty. In the 70s and 80s, they were allowed access to the casino and gaming industries. Some thrive, you know, can see a lot of tribes kind of thrived in that area, and some, you know, still didn't.
Thanks for the casinos, Uncle Sam.
Yeah. And even now, like, I didn't even realize the Connecticut Sun WNBA team is owned by a native tribe. And that was something I never even realized. Watched basketball for years and seen the Connecticut Sun for years until I saw that the word on their uniform they put sometimes Kisusk, which Kisusk means sun in the Mohegan language. So then I could run down this rabbit hole of like, oh, wait a minute, this tribe actually owns a professional WNBA team.
That's cool.
I believe they also own casinos and that kind of, you know, able to thrive and flip that money into, you know, something bigger.
They hold on to that money.
But obviously not every tribe has that, you know, luxury of being able to have a successful casino and, you know, be able to support themselves in that way.
A lot of them are suffering.
Currently 1 in 3 Native Americans live in poverty, median income of $23,000. Unemployment for Native Americans was 11.1%, which is well above the national average. Of course, COVID hit them pretty hard as well.
Absolutely.
Poverty, crowded living conditions, you know, a closed off space within the reservations, of course, took out a ton of people.
Alcoholism. They get
hit with a lot of things.
All of it, right?
Their life expectancy is 5 years shorter than the average person in the U.S. A lot of mental illness, drug use, food insecurity, and suicide as well. And they weren't even granted citizenship in this country until 1924. Which should have been the other way around because this is their country.
For the record.
They should have been granted somebody else citizenship. Right. So then when you kind of come across the border down to Mexico, you see, you know, there's a large and diverse indigenous population here, primarily concentrated in the southern and south central regions, but they're kind of all over the place. The Constitution in 1992 did recognize them as being, you know, part of the country, pluricultural country in Mexico. But of course, they still face discrimination, marginalization as they do here. They've been decimated by colonialism, disease, exploitation. The government does have some efforts to integrate them into society, but a lot of those policies have kind of devalued their language and culture. So thinking about anyone you try to assimilate into the culture, a lot of times you don't allow them to bring themselves when they have to fit into whatever.
They have to assimilate the other way, right?
They've got to lose whatever they have that makes them special in order to fit into whatever you're trying to do. There was also an uprising in 1994 that brought a whole lot of attention to their plight. And they had some San Andreas Accords were supposed to help them, but they were never fully implemented. So as in America, made some promises to them. Those promises were never upheld. It seems to be an ongoing theme when you're talking about dealing with indigenous people.
Why is it so hard to get that right? Why is it so hard to get that right? Go ahead, because I'm about to get on the soapbox.
They definitely face challenges related to land rights, violence, discrimination. There are a lot of activists that are advocating for their rights, but they also get targeted. They also get killed. They also experience inadequate access to justice, language barriers, violations. And that's a big thing here is their language they hold on to here. So you'll hear Nahuatl languages, you'll hear some Mayan languages as well. So like if you go into really remote areas, you'll still hear still speaking their native language.
Especially going toward like Yucatan.
Towards Yucatan for sure. And also the election of AMLO in 2018, he brought some hope for positive change. He promised bilingual schools, greater recognition of rights, However, these issues are still kind of ongoing, so there hasn't been a whole lot of change there. So between the two countries, I think there was a sort of wiping out, moving out, pushing out, killing on the side of the U.S. more so than in Mexico.
Yeah.
There's still a whole lot of that population still left here. They're not as rare, I think, as they are in the U.S. But I think this is, something that we're learning as we're getting here. There is a huge value in the indigenous cultures.
Absolutely.
They're still very apparent in the everyday culture here in Mexico.
Yep.
And they're more apparent in the U.S. too. I think a lot of people realize how much they are apparent. When you look at things like,
because they look more Europeanized, like we don't know.
Mississippi and Missouri, and like a lot of words and locations. Tallahassee.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of indigenous words plastered around, right?
Yeah.
But we just don't know that they are.
We don't even realize that those are indigenous things.
That is correct. That's
left
true.
over in the culture. So, I think, if anybody comes down to San Miguel and visits during the time of a celebration, one thing you cannot miss is catching one of these parades, watching the indigenous folks come through, celebrating their culture. And I enjoy the fact that they are always included in celebrations here, even in a tourist place where, a lot of facade is put up here, as any tourist place. You want to show the good, the good side of everything, the positive side of everything.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like they treat their indigenous people as part of that good and positive side to show the world as they come through.
Yeah. They are always on display. And not tokenism, but on display because this is my land.
Yeah.
This is my city. Look, I was here for generations and generations,
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful, y'all. Y'all gotta come and see them. Gotta come.
And it's crazy how much of the Catholic culture is built on top of the indigenous culture.
Yeah.
So like a lot of places where you see big churches here, before it used to be a pyramid, right?
Yep.
Like they know these sacred places are sacred, and they're using that to their advantage to help convert people from, their indigenous religions into Catholicism.
Yeah. Of course, this was centuries and centuries and centuries ago.
Right.
But they never got torn down.
It never got torn down, and a lot of their indigenous religions are sort of hidden within the Catholic culture as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of those saints that they kind of celebrate have double duty. They kind of a meaning for the Catholic religion, but as well as a meaning for the indigenous
for the indigenous people.
Which is really interesting. Of like the spirit and the culture is something that they hid in plain sight. So it was never lost. It was always there. Okay, you're worshiping Saint Anthony today, but for us, it actually means something else.
Right.
We kind of have something connected to that.
Right.
Right. So, it's one of those things where I think you can see the strength of a people who understood that maybe the battle was lost, maybe they had to, assimilate into this culture to preserve their lives at the end of the day. But we're not going to lose our culture. We're going to keep it with us one way or another.
We're going to hold on to as much as we can.
Yeah.
And it is beautiful. Oh, they're so beautiful. So beautiful.
So we hope you guys enjoyed our little discussion about sort of the differences between indigenous folks, between U.S. and Mexico. Hope for those who are really interested in seeing some more indigenous culture, if you don't really get that very much in the U.S. where you are, take a trip to Mexico. You'll probably see a little bit more of it.
Absolutely. You see a lot more of it, babe. Yeah. And then even if you can't get here, maybe if you look on, Google search, how close are you to the nearest reservation, right? Because Cherokee Nation, there's, Blackfoot, all these, they're different places, reservations around the world. And maybe they will allow you to come and partake in something, so, and because they have community events too, and festivals. So maybe you can actually go and soak up some of their culture too. Yeah.
So as always, we ask you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. Buy us a coffee. Watch another video.
Share,
all those things. And if you had something to add, let us know in the comments. As always.
Totally. Please leave us a comment, guys. And we appreciate you all for leaving comments too. We really, really do.
Absolutely.
The feedback is amazing. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
Cuídate.
Arias Garce. Take care and take a chance. And if you do have a chance, watch the video we just posted last week about the rainy season here And the magic. And it actually touches a little bit on indigenous culture as well, with some of the festivals they have to help bring in the rain and hope for and pray for a good rainy season.
Yeah. Check it out.
Check it out. So we'll see you guys next week.
Next week.
Peace, y'all. This is the 7997 Podcast, your home for raw and honest conversation, featuring Chris and Jackie, with new episodes every Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts.